What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday, September 26th, otherwise known as Media Day for 2022. We heard from Blazers players today. We heard from Joe Cronin. We heard from Chauncey Billups. We also heard from Dwayne Hankins. So we'll talk about everything. We'll break down every quote, and we're going to discuss it with you guys. Very excited to start another season of Blazer basketball. This feels like the start of the season. Like, it's not the first game or anything, but definitely some things we can talk about, some narratives from today that we can touch upon that I'm happy to discuss with my co-host, Eric Brandt, as always, man. Eric, how's it going? And how did you enjoy today? What was your feeling coming out today? All that.
Well, watched it all live. I don't know, feel pretty good about it. Yeah, it's, I'm excited to see if what all they were saying is going to be true. Happy to hear that Dame is locked in, and we'll get into what he said about wanting to win a championship and stuff like that. It's always good to hear him reiterate that stuff, even though we know that's how he is. And then, yeah, just I feel like every person had something they said that I want to talk about, so that's cool too. Because once it got to like the Drew Eubanks and those kind of things, usually it's like, okay, do we really need to listen to this? But I felt like everyone said something that is relevant to bring up on the stream.
Yep. I agree. I took notes on every interview that I watched. There was 4 that I didn't watch that I assume you watched. It was like Keon Johnson, Trent Watford, that sort of thing, so I'll rely on you for those. But I took detailed notes, spent 2-3 hours today just going over, pausing, just trying to really pick apart what was said. And now, it's talk, right? You got to see action on the court. There was a lot of positive talk at Media Day last year, and we all know how last year went. So not to overestimate the importance of what was said today, right? It's just Media Day, but it's fun to actually just kind of break something down and go, deep into something that's actually happening. So yes, I took very detailed notes. It was like I was back in college. And yeah, we're just going to bounce back and forth and kind of just break things down on everybody.
I did feel like it was a lot more comfortable. Like last year, they were just preaching what I think they wanted Chauncey to hear from them. But this just felt like everyone was a lot more comfortable and speaking more freely and pretty locked in. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Man, like my takeaway from this, you probably put it into words better than I was going to be able to without thinking about it like that, but something just feels different this year. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what. It's hard to put my finger on it, but it definitely felt more comfortable. Well, but the vibes are just better. I don't know. Like last year you heard the right things, but it just felt a little bit more awkward. And then we saw how it played out, and it was like you heard guys, CJ talking about defense and whatnot, but it was hard to believe that CJ would ever become a good defensive player, even though he said the right things, right? But with this roster, like the attitude that I felt today from this roster fits the types of guys that they are, and it's why the more we head into the season, the more happy I am with the offseason, because we went out and got Chauncey's types of players. We went out and got guys that competed. That was the big thing that I had with last year, is we had guys that just didn't compete, that quit, that didn't play the right way. Now I believe the roster is built to do that with Chauncey guys, with competitors, and that's basically the vibe that I got from interviews today. Is we got a bunch of guys that are committed, that'll play hard, that'll play defense. And Chauncey said this. I'll lead off with the first thing. We're going to talk about Chauncey first, but Chauncey said that there was 10 guys a day in the gym in August, and that the whole team was there for the majority of September. So they are in shape going into training camp this year, which he said last year they weren't. Last year in training camp they looked good, but when it got into game action, some preseason games, like Golden State went out and shot like 73s on them, and then Phoenix just like ran circles around them, and they just weren't in good enough shape going into last year. So Chauncey said he made it important. He put an emphasis on guys being in shape going into the season. And it sounds like that's the case with how much they've supposedly been in the gym.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the overall vibes of the press conference, you have to remember that last year was the summer of uh, really horrible Neil Olshey press conferences where, they had the exit interview and then the Stotts firing and then the Billups hiring and then media day. It was just like people were just fed up with him and for right reasons, I guess. But like that just kind of put a damper on a lot of the stuff. And then the word of last year was accountability for sure. The word of today is some version of connectivity, uh, connectiveness, however you want to phrase it. But that was the word that came up the most today.
Yeah, connectivity. Last year it was accountability. All right. There always seems to be a word coming out of training camp that's just kind of the theme. And you can't, I don't know, like accountability felt forced with how much they talked about it last year, which they needed more accountability. But also it's like you need guys that'll hold themselves accountable. And the guys that hold themselves accountable, they don't have to talk about accountability, right? It's the guys that have maybe relaxed too much on the defensive end or been a little too lazy on the defensive end in years past that need to be held accountable. So Chauncey was preaching that going into last year because you had players on this roster like that. And then the players tried to echo that sentiment and the accountability thing felt forced in those interviews. And then they struggled to be held accountable when they played on the road last year and started 1-10 on the road because they played with no effort, no energy, no hustle. So this year, there was hardly any talk about accountability. That's a good thing because you got guys that just compete. They don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I think with accountability, it's one of those things where everyone says they want to be held accountable, but until you're actually held accountable as a good player, we know several starters last season said they wanted to be held accountable and then seemingly didn't once they started being held accountable. So it's one of those things where you can say it all day, but unless you truly are open to being held accountable, it's never going to work. Whereas when you're talking about connectivity, if they've already all been in the gym for as long as Phillips said they have been, then, I mean, that's something that's already started. The process is already working. The chemistry is already getting stirred into the way they want to shape it. So I feel like connectivity is a lot easier to accomplish, and things like going to Santa Barbara for a few days and just being together and stuff like that will help as well. So I feel like it's much more easier to achieve their goal of connectivity this year than their goal of all being held accountable.
Yeah. And before this, I was questioning their decision to go down to California for training camp. And then after Chauncey explained the reasoning why, it made perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm. It's to kind of build chemistry, and you do build more team chemistry on the road, but it's a little bit harder because you got a game, you got a shoot around, media obligations with the shoot around, and then a lot of times you're flying out, you're on the plane, like it's just go, go, go. Whereas training camp, it's a little bit more relaxed. They're not going to be like flying anywhere or moving from a hotel to an arena or whatnot. They'll probably have a hotel by wherever they're having the training camp, and it should be a great opportunity to build some chemistry between guys because there is a lot of new players on this roster. That it was said that, I think it was either Chauncey or it was Cronin that said, as far as guys Dame has played with, he's played with Nurkic, he's played with Ant, he's played with Nas. But Ant and Nas are different players now than the last time Dame played with them. And that really put it in context how fresh and new this team is. And
also, I mean, most of Ant and Nas's breakout came after Dame was out for the season. So he hasn't played with them as maybe better players than they were. Or in the case of Ant, he mostly came off the bench and played with CJ in the second unit. So, of course, him and Dame played some together, but it wasn't like they played tons of minutes together on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as media day comments go, I think there's two big things that you can take away from it. Like, one, you can kind of feel the vibe of the team, and then two, I forgot what the second thing was.
Well,
Dang it.
I have one. I don't know if this is what you're going to say, but I do feel like the team is a lot more. I mean, yeah, last year they said the whole accountability thing and they were all saying the same thing. But I felt like everyone who got up there today, it just seemed like they were all on the same page and like all
It's
pushing
insightful.
towards the same direction versus like I didn't feel like there was many like individual people who were going to be like going their own way and worrying about themselves over the team. And that's cool to hear. And it feels like the front office is on the same page with all the players and everything. And it's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that Chauncey Billups said that you want to touch on? I have a lot, but I'll let you go.
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to bring out the whole notepad, huh? I've missed the sound of you ruffling papers.
Sorry.
No, I've missed it. Because it's been a while since you've had stuff to write about.
He did mention the synergy between him and Cronin. What's like I was just talking about. I feel like those two are completely on the same page. I almost feel like Billups is kind of controlling everything, you know. He's like, I want these kind of players, and Cronin goes out and gets them. And that's not a knock on Cronin at all. I would actually prefer that if the coach is getting the type of players he wants to have on his team. So I feel like that's true, that there has seemed to be synergy ever since Cronin took over last year. So that's good. Billups learned a lot last year. He said he was pushed on what some of those things he learned were, or what the most important thing. You already brought this up, but he mentioned that the team needed to be in better shape and better conditioning in camp. And that's the first lesson he learned. And that he feels like that did get them off to a bad start last year, where he thought they were doing all the right things in training camp. And then you show up, like you mentioned, the start of the season on the road didn't go well. Preseason was a disaster. All these things kept happening, and teams were running circles around us. So it's good. And one of the main problems with that in years past has been Jusuf Nurkic outside that 1 year where he came in really skinny. So I think him playing over in Europe this year will help him be in shape. He seemed to be in good shape right now. So I'm really excited for that. And then, go ahead. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I just figured we bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
He talked about Nurkic, thought his confidence was really high. And that's one of the things that I was hoping to hear about from Nurkic and maybe from Chauncey in this situation, is just how Nurkic playing for the Bosnian national team has maybe prepared him for this season. And Nurkic said he felt like he's already mentally in regular season mode, and Chauncey touched upon that and said, you know, he looks like he's in shape, his confidence is high. But then he also said, Eric, and this, I loved hearing this, he said that Nurkic is a good teammate, and that he doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a good rim protector.
Yep. I mean, I feel like Nurk has had good rim protection in previous years at times, but I mean, what are you supposed to do when you constantly have a guy going downhill down the middle of the paint, and you have to decide whether to stay with your guy or contest a floater or let that guy get to the rim? And he's constantly put in a horrible position, and hopefully with this whole connectivity and playing as one unit and all being there for each other and stuff like that, the chemistry is there to where we lessen the burden on him having to basically hold up a bunch of bad perimeter defenders.
Yep, exactly. And as far as the connectivity thing, or go ahead.
Well, I just want to say one more thing he said about Nurk.
Yeah.
He mentioned specifically that they need to move off ball because of Nurk's strengths. And if they don't, they're not playing to what he does best, And I thought that was really important because he wants a free-flowing offense with a lot of off-ball movement and wants to utilize Nurk's passing. And I thought that was important that he brought that up.
Yep. And Chauncey talked about how the offense needs to be unpredictable. That's how you make an offense unpredictable. And that's what we complained about for years under Terry Stotts, Eric, was, yeah, you can have a top 5 regular season offense playing iso ball and being last in the league in assists and last in the league in passes if you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, right? And you can sit here and say, oh, well, he's letting his players play to their strengths. Like, okay, sure, yeah, both those guys are good pick and roll players and isolation players, and that was pretty much the entire offense. But then you jump into the playoffs, and that's extremely easy to game plan for. In playoffs, teams are going to game plan harder, and it becomes completely predictable. Defenders are also able to play more physical in the playoffs, and it's easier to guard isolation and pick and roll possessions if you can get into the ball handler and be more physical with them. So it did not translate to the playoffs. That's what me and you argued for the longest time with people, and statistically, it's backed up. If you go, there was an article on our website back when we were publishing, some more articles on BlazersUprise.com. There's probably a lot of people watching this that don't know that we have a website, but there was an article, I forget who wrote it, but there was an article looking at where the Blazers ranked offensively during the regular season and then how it regressed during the playoffs.
That was Shervin, by the way.
Shout out to Shervin. Shervin did an article on that. And statistically, it's backed up. The offense got worse in the playoffs compared to the rest of the pack. And that was because of the type of offense they ran. So to hear Chauncey talk about how the offense needs to be unpredictable by moving the ball more, by just being more motion-oriented, it's just music to my ears. And he said the right things last year. Unfortunately, we didn't have the right guys to see that out. This year, it's even nicer because I think we do have the right guys to see it out.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, he mentioned grinding on defense and just being tough overall, competing, and just not letting the other team ever have a break on both ends. And love to hear that once again. Now, whether he implements it correctly this year, still to be determined. But once again, he's saying all the right things, and I hope it translates to the court.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else from Chauncey?
Yeah, so to anyone who ever questions whether Ant should come off the bench or...
Can I just preface this with, this better be the last time we have this conversation?
Yeah. He said there are 4 for sure starters, and those starters are Dame, Ant, Grant, and Nurkic, and those positions are already set. They're not even considering Ant. I mean, I've told you guys this all summer. I mean, Torian has been saying this too. They view Ant as a start. They are not going to have him come off the bench. This has always been the plan, to have him and Dame be the backcourt this year. And once they got Grant, he was obviously going to start at the 4. And once they re-signed Nurk, he was obviously starting at the 5. And there's no one really to contest those two. And the backcourt is so good, there's no way they're going to ever switch that. And so, yeah, it was good to hear him actually say that. I was glad he came out and basically put that to bed.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing that drives me crazy. Can I just rant on this for a second?
Yeah.
Ant's already going to play with the bench lineup.
Right.
He's already going to be staggered with
CJ
Dame.
For you, right?
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so for the people that say, because there's one of them in chat, for the people that say to bring Ant off the bench because it's a better fit or whatever, are you saying that Ant should never play with Dame? Is that what you're saying? Because, what, so Ant should play 14 minutes a game, or what, Dame and Ant should play 24 minutes a game apiece and just never play together? Because Ant's already going to play when Dame's off the court. There's always going to be one of those guys on the court. One of them is going to be playing when the other is sitting for probably half the game already. And they're each going to get over 30 minutes per game, like upwards of 36. Okay? But those 12 minutes or 14 minutes that Dame's out, Ant's going to be playing. So what? What is your solution to make the fit better? You're just changing the time they play together so that you can bring Ant off the bench? What does that actually accomplish? You're still playing them together. Like, so what? You want to lessen the time that they play together. That means reducing one or both of their minutes, which they're the top 2 players on this team. Reducing their minutes is not going to help this team win more games. It's just not. Okay, that's why you go out and you bring in other defensive-minded players to put next to him. Dame and CJ have been a part of a top 10 defense before, so I don't know why Dame and Ant can't be if everything else is set up to help those guys out defensively. So the whole notion and the logic of bringing Ant off the bench has never made sense to me. Like, you're either playing these guys less or you're just changing when they play together. Because they're already always, one of them is going to be on the court. So every time somebody comes in and says, bring Ant off the bench, or in the past it's bring CJ off the bench, I ask those questions and there's never an answer that makes any sense. Because it's either you have to play them less, or you just change when they play together, which means nothing. That's the only 2 ways around not starting both of them.
Well, I think at times some people would have been fine with CJ playing 20 minutes a game, even though that wouldn't have worked out, but
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully Ant is just so good that we never really have to worry about this going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, yeah, there's no way to do it and accomplish anything without reducing their minutes as well, which is a negative. Like, that's just the way it is. So the logic has never made sense to me in that regard, like, but it's not going to happen regardless, so can we stop talking about it? Yeah. That's why I wanted to rant about this, because I do not want to talk about this anymore. Like, I'm tired of having that conversation with CJ, and now it's going to be the same conversation with Ant, and it just doesn't make any sense. So that's I got to get out of my system, because I don't want to talk about bringing Ant off the bench when it's not going to happen, and it doesn't make sense.
Yep. Before I comment, I just want to make sure we get this $5 donation from Caleb Pendergraft from earlier.
Yeah, what's up, Caleb?
I feel only extraordinary despondency about this Blazers media day. How can I feel hope for a team that doesn't even acknowledge that Nas is him?
See, this is why we need media day passes, so Eric could have gone and just asked everybody, is Nas him?
Is Nas him? And then until someone says it, I'll just keep asking.
You'd probably, honestly, the one player that'd probably be like, Nas is him, that'd give you that response, it's your guy, Jabari. Well, you probably get the right response from him.
Yeah, it's some good things to say about him.
That's kind of like that's a younger guy saying like Twitter thing. So he probably knows. Some of the older guys are probably just like, what is this dude on? How is he here?
Can someone please strip this guy's fast so he stops asking?
That's just the YouTuber.
Yeah, thanks, Caleb. Yeah, I thought overall, like Veeks mentions in chat, the media questions were pretty good today. Didn't have a lot of complaints, but
yeah, I forgot to touch upon this. Like, okay, so my co-host with the Believe in Blazers podcast was Stephen Vaughn, and he read off what the Blazers sent out to him, and they kind of made it seem like media wasn't going to be able to ask questions. That's why I tweeted out last night, like, don't be surprised or don't be disappointed by. I forget exactly what I said, but basically it was like expect to be disappointed by the depth of media day, because it sounded like they might cut it short and it might be a shortened version because they were flying out to California today, which they did. So, I was happy that they got to be asked questions, and there were some good questions in there, so I was happy with it. I was set up for disappointment. But yeah, so I would have been on here ranting if they didn't get to ask questions, or if like they only gave each player like 4 minutes or something. So
right. But yeah, back to Chauncey. So along the starter line, this is where this kind of started to raise a little eyebrow. When he's talking about the small forward position being open right now, he mentioned we talked about already. Gary Payton II's injury is probably going to exclude him from being able to compete from that position. So he'll most likely at least start the season coming off the bench. And Bill specifically mentioned Nas, Josh Hart, who we both know about. But he also mentioned that Justice Winslow has a chance to start at the small forward, and that he really likes his fit there. What do you think about that?
No. By the way, okay, so teaser. After this stream, I'm dropping the Justice Winslow player preview over on the main channel, Blazers Uprise. Just go on YouTube and search Blazers Uprise. Which it's funny because Blazers Uprise Live now comes up before Blazers Uprise when you search Blazers Uprise on YouTube. I don't know why. But, yeah, Yeah, so I'm doing a player preview on him, and I'll go in depth. But it's just, like, Chauncey said that it's not even necessarily about the best player, it's about the best fit, okay? Like, okay, cool. I don't disagree with that at all. I don't see how Justice Winslow can be the best fit when he's the worst shooter out of the three. Like, you want some floor spacing. You have playmaking with Grant, with Ant, with Dame. You have enough playmaking. That's one of Winslow's strengths in a forward position is he can pass and kind of make plays for other guys. But you don't need that in the starting lineup at the 3 spot. You need a guy who plays defense, which Winslow does, but so does Hart, and so does Nas, and so does Gary Payton II. And you need a guy that can also space and give those guys space in which to play make. And Winslow just is not that guy. He's just not. He's shot under 23% from 3 the last 3 years. In Portland, he came in here and people thought he played great. He still shot 40% from the field and like 23% from 3.
27, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
No, I think it was 22.7. Here, I have his stats here. Oh, he shot 27. He shot 27% in Portland. That's still really bad. On the season, including his time with the Clippers, he shot 22.7% from 3. So last 3 seasons, he has not shot above 23% from 3. Now he hasn't played a whole lot, but he's just he's not a shooter. He's just not. He's not a floor spacer. So it's like if you're talking about the best fit, I don't see how Winslow has a chance to start over Hart and Nas, both of whom aren't the best shooters, but they can space the floor, and then they can also play defense and do more.
Yeah. I mean, everything I've heard is that Winslow, they're very high on him. They like him. He's going to be a part of the rotation, all that kind of stuff. So did it surprise me? I guess with their lack of depth at the 4 spot, unless, one of the rookies steps up or, they feel comfortable with trending at the 4. It kind of would surprise me if Winslow started at small forward, considering, we hadn't even really talked about that possibility with how loaded we are at, the shooting guard and kind of smallish small forward position. So it was a little weird to hear them say that, and a part of me wanted to believe that they're just trying to make sure Winslow stays happy if he doesn't get a ton of minutes this year.
Yeah.
But then, everyone, Cronin, Billups, and then some of the other players all talked about Winslow and his connection with Nurk and the 4-game winning streak and all that stuff. So, I think they really like him, and I don't know.
That's why they like him.
Because
he plays hard and he plays the right way, and he's unselfish. Everybody wants to play with a teammate like that, so it's no surprise there. Everything else he does, he rebounds, he passes, he plays hard, he plays defense. He does everything else. The thing is just in terms of fit, you have to try and maximize whatever 5-man lineup you have out there, and I don't think Winslow at the 3 does that.
Yeah, unless, if the movement was so good and Winslow was playing more on ball, I guess, with that lineup. And you have
a Draymond role.
Yeah, and you have Grant, Ant and Dame all spot up shooters with Nurk hanging around the dunker spot or down low by the basket. I think you can make it work. I just don't know why that would be a better option than to have him and just have a whole second unit with all 5 guys being able to handle the ball and stuff like that.
That's my question is even in that sort of scenario, who do you think's the better passer, Justice Winslow or Josh Hart?
It's probably pretty close. Josh Hart's probably got a slight edge.
Yeah, and I would say Josh Hart's the better ball handler, and he's the better shooter. So it's I don't see how you would start Winslow over Hart for that reason, because I think Hart would actually be even better in that role. It makes sense if you didn't have a Josh Hart and you wanted a guy to function in that Draymond-esque offensive role where you have Dame and Ant moving off ball, running off each other like Steph and Clay do, but Hart's just as good, if not better, of a passer. He's a better ball handler, in my opinion. I trust him more bringing the ball up the court. I think he's better attacking the rim, and he's better off the ball. So, that's the thing. And then Nas is the better defensive player. And that's the thing. It's like, I want them to challenge Nas to be a little bit more of a facilitatory guy as well. So that's just why I don't think he has a realistic chance, or shouldn't have a realistic chance.
I think it just kind of depends on what you're looking for with the starting lineup in terms of defense. Because I think there's plenty of offense with the other four guys. So maybe if they do it, they're going to say that Winslow, I think out of the three, he's probably the most physical, tough defender. Hopefully Nas develops into that, but I'd say Winslow's the most like punishing physical defender of the three. So maybe that's just what'll win him the job. But I mean, that's the only thing I could think of as to why he'd get the nod over any of those other ones. They just want to set the tone early with some tough play or whatever.
I mean, but like if that's the case, then why doesn't Gary Payton II have a chance?
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's just the thing that confuses me. So I think it will be Nas. I think Nas will win it. I mean, Nas is Did you see how big he looked today?
Yeah, he looked pretty good. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But I think Nas is gonna be physical guys too, man. But anything else from Chauncey you want to talk about? We'll talk about Cronin.
He was asked what he wanted the defensive rating to be. He said he doesn't like to put a number on it because if you're a really good defense, but other teams have good defenses too, and you're 12th instead of 10th, is it really a failure or whatever? So, but he definitely mentioned that we can't be as bad as, I mean, obviously, we can't be as bad as we were the last few years because we have no shot in this loaded West if that's the case. In terms of Dame, he said ideally, in a perfect world, 32 to 34 minutes. And that would mean that we're winning minutes with him off the court too. So it would be good for the team because we're most likely playing really well, which would be awesome if that happens. If Dame only had to play 34 minutes a game and we were winning games still. But he said with Dame, he said, we'll see, because Dame's not going to want to come out of games, and he'll play 42 minutes if you let him and stuff like that. So I think this might be the first year where maybe we're okay with him resting a little more than normal, hopefully. But I think because of Dame's injury and because of his age, I just think at some point Billups needs to step in and do what's best long term for Dame. So I hope he doesn't have him playing 38 minutes a game early in the season. Even if Dame can handle it this year, I just think they should take a long-term approach with him and do what's best for him to play multiple seasons at a high rate instead of just trying to win right away with him or whatever. But that's my opinion. I could see it both ways.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a situation where the team's just not good enough to play him less than 36 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to. Is he shouldn't be playing more than 36 minutes a game regardless. That's kind of the cutoff for most stars at this point, is like, you guys shouldn't be playing more than 36 minutes a game. But like most stars will play 35, 36 minutes a game unless they're on a really good team, and they'll be less. Like Giannis has played less. Mm-hmm. So it's partly Chauncey's decision, but it's like if it's a close game, you can't sit here. If you're in a bunch of close games all season long because you're not like the Phoenix Suns from last year, then I don't know if you can get away playing Dame 32 minutes a game, because other stars, they play 36. Like, that's kind of the consensus cutoff. Like, you don't want to lose games because you play Dame 32 minutes instead of 36, unless it's like when he's out, the bench unit's playing really well and maybe even playing better, like Ant's just looking phenomenal. Then, okay, maybe you can rest him. It doesn't make a difference in the end of the game, but that's what coaches have to weigh when they think about how many minutes they're playing their star players. So I love the way Chauncey answered that. Is, I'd love to play him 32, 34 minutes a game, but that means we're playing really well. Yeah. That's perfect answer in my opinion. And as far as the whole defensive rankings thing, like, I like that it's not something where he's like forcing expectations in terms of like, oh, well, we need to be, a top 10 defense, top 15, whatever. It's not like looking at it in terms of like, this is where we necessarily need to be. It seems like the team is looking at it in regards to this is what we need to do, which is a difference in mindset. They're focusing on we just need to go out there and compete consistently, which is a low bar, but that bar wasn't met last year. And then, they will address things where they struggle, but it's like you got to be committed to the game plan. You got to be committed to your defensive schemes, to fulfilling your responsibility as a defensive player. And if you're not, then you're going to have breakdowns. So with the bare minimum, that's what you got to do. And then if everybody's committed, there's still going to be mistakes and whatnot, but then you can clean those up and improve over the course of the season. Then by the end of the season, you'll hopefully be where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. I did kind of get the sense that they feel like they could be good enough to rest him a little bit, though. I think, the 4-game win streak got brought up several times, but they had to bench or take a lot of people out of the lineup, right? And I think in their minds, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying I think in their minds, they feel like not that they can win without Dame, but they can shoulder that like a little bit less of a burden on him because of how well the rest of the team played. And hopefully as Ant steps up more, which is the next or the last thing I want to talk about with Chauncey is what he said about Ant. But as hopefully as his game continues to grow, he becomes that Dame-like player.
Yeah. But the only way the team is really good is if they play with that style of play and then Dame like supplements that. So it's like they have to be a top 2 or 3 seed for me to see Dame getting less than 34 minutes a game. Like, because it's going to be a situation. It's like if they are a good team, even if they're not really good, even though 4 or 5 seed caliber, they have to be a team where Dame makes them the best version of themselves, and then their style of play gets them to that 4 or 5 seed level. And if you're playing Dame 32 minutes in a game, like, and it's close, like, I feel like there could be a situation where we're looking back like, oh, Dame had a rhythm and had it going, and we were, up 5 or whatever earlier in the game, and he should have maybe stayed in, but he gets subbed out. And he only plays 32 minutes in this game, and we lose by 3, and Dame had 35, right? And it's like, if we just kept him on, like, he should have played 36 minutes, we probably win this game if he plays 36 minutes. Like, that's if that really ends up being the scenario, I could see having some post-game streams where that is the conversation. Right?
Well, you mentioned Giannis, and one of the reasons why his minutes are so low is because they blow teams out. The Blazers haven't had that luxury. They rarely blow teams out. So that's part of it. If it's not a close game and you're winning, you're taking care of business and winning minutes earlier in the game and building a lead, maybe you can afford to rest him longer in games. I think that's more how I look at it versus, we can't survive if Dame doesn't play 2 extra minutes or whatever. So I think it just has to do with team success. If we're winning games, I think we can get away with it. If we're not winning games, obviously there's going to be more pressure to play them.
Yeah, absolutely. But have we ever had a good bench unit behind Dame? Like, we've had some players, but for the most part, it's like Dame comes out of the game and we lose an advantage against the other team because Dame is that good, right? There's been so many years in the past where it's like Dame comes out of the game for 6 minutes in the first half and we either lose a lead or we're in a tight game and then we fall behind. I don't even care. Dame shouldn't be playing more than 36 minutes, but if he plays 36 minutes, that's fine. I just hope that the bench isn't losing ground compared to other teams' bench units like they have in past years. That's just my hope. I don't think that'll happen. I like this bench, but it's like the bar has been set low in regards to the bench. So just don't lose ground compared to other bench units like we have had to deal with for years.
Well, previous benches have had absolute turnstiles on them, and
Exactly.
that won't happen this year. So I feel like even if they're not scoring at a rate that's higher than previous benches, I still feel like just the defensive presence can help contribute to that. But um, that's why I go back to Ant. Like if he's running that second unit and he's looking like he did when Dame was out this year before they shut him down, um, like that's someone who you basically still have Dame in the game, right? So like if Ant takes that progression and he's capable of leading a team to grow the lead instead of decrease the lead when he's in there in that second unit. We're not talking about, oh man, we got to rush Dame back in. That would be huge, and that's really the key to the season. I think is if that happens where the bench is good enough to keep leads. It's I think we could be really really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely a chance of that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm just focusing on them maintaining ground against bench lineups first before I'm worried about, oh, well, we could get away with playing Dame 32 minutes a game because our bench is so good, because it's just where it's been. Like
it's a weird thing to think about outside of maybe 2019, when we had like Collins and Hood and Cantor off the bench till Nurk went down.
Yeah, and I think early in the season, like there's so many good teams that they play in November. Like you're gonna see Dame playing 36 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not gonna be in position where you feel like you can get away like resting him for 9 minutes in the first half or anything like that because the schedule is so hard to start the season. And that's the thing. Even if it wasn't that hard, like you still have to. This is still a team with a bunch of guys that haven't really played together. There's probably gonna be some time where they just need to get adjusted to each other and. You're going to have to play Dame 36 minutes regardless just because, it's not going to be clicking on all cylinders right away like some other teams that have been together more. So early in the season, I expect Dame to play 36 minutes a game. Might even be upwards of 37, might be as low as 35. But then when the schedule gets easier and this team has more cohesion and even more familiarity with each other, then, during January, maybe February, you could see stretches and months even where Dame's playing 32 to 34 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Gray Hughes investigates with a $5 donation. He says, "See, twice that 4-game stretch was mentioned. That was the best basketball in years here in Portland. Yes, small sample, but they both said connected."
Yeah,
I mean that was another theme of today. Was I think they put a lot of stock, much to your chagrin, right, in that 4-game winning streak.
Not like they did play connected. They played the right style of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm trying not to overreact to that, but it was a different style of play that works. Okay? And like Gray says that's the best basketball in years here in Portland in terms of the style of play. Like I don't disagree with that. I agree with that. The thing is, though, is the bar was so low that, like, that's why I'm not getting too carried away with a 4-game stretch, is because we were, like, for years, we played no defense and we're last in the league in terms of ball movement, player movement, last in the league in assists. Like, the style of play was terrible. That's why, like, people were getting so excited watching those games because it was fun to watch. And I think that's part of the reason, like, that 4-game stretch gets mentioned so much is, like, that's the style of play that me and you started this channel asking for. Mm-hmm. Like that from the start, we were known as the people that criticized Terry Stotts and the style of play that this team played with. That's what we got known for, and that's exactly what we've been wanting to see. And that's why we didn't give Terry Stotts in the past any injury excuses when like one role player was out or whatever, because it's like you can have lesser talent, but if you get them playing the right way or challenge them to play the right way, it's a better brand of basketball and it will lead to more success. Like some pieces are less than the sum of their parts. Some pieces can be greater than the sum of their parts depending on the style of play in which they play with and how hard it is to guard and if they run the right defensive schemes at the right times and that sort of thing. So yeah, like that sample size mattered and they were absolutely connected. So, I'm not saying nobody should look at that and get excited, or I'm not saying people shouldn't read into that being the style of play going forward, because that's what I think it will be. It was just more so like, I don't think Justice Winslow should be playing 30 minutes a game because he was playing 30 minutes a game during that stretch or anything like that.
Right. And yeah, I mean, the year before, I forgot what it was, but shortly after we acquired Norm, I mean, it might have been like a month later or so, but we won like 10 out of 12 games or 10 out of 11 games or something like that. And we were like barely winning, and like we are playing like Boston without Tatum, and like it seemed like every team we played was missing someone. And of course, like Olshey then puts a ton of stock in that, and then we lose in the first round and stuff like that. So I definitely see the contrast. We're not playing well, but still winning. Honestly, in the bubble, the 8 games prior to the playoffs, the Blazers did not play well at all, but Dame just went insane and won us a lot of games. But like overall, we weren't playing good basketball during that stretch. I mean, we almost missed the playoffs from Karis LeVert and wasted like an insane game by Damian Lillard. But yeah, so it is cool to see that. And that was the only bummer of last season. I was fine with tanking in my mind. But I would have liked to see, without hurting the tank, if that group could have kept that up for a more extended period of time. But it was still
Then
fun
we
to
wouldn't
watch.
have Shaden Sharp.
No, I understand that. I'm saying if you could just like,
no, I know.
In an alternate universe, I would have liked to seen if
Absolutely.
they could have, won 15 out of 20 games after the All-Star break or something like that, and like made the play-in game. I mean, you say no Shaden Sharp, but we could have possibly prevented New Orleans from making the postseasons and had all our future picks to trade, and then still had a lottery pick from New Orleans, so we might have still gotten Shaden Sharp. But yeah, so
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Who knows what would have happened? But
well, no, we would have traded that lottery pick for Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, probably, but
somehow.
yeah,
who knows? But you ready to move on to Cronin?
Yeah, let me just say one more thing. Billups was asked what he feels about Anthony Simons. He said he was super excited about him. Ant's really confident. He's growing up, and he's being more vocal around the team and stuff like that, which is good to hear. And just generally excited that Chauncey is excited about him.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so Joe Cronin also spoke to the media, and there were some interesting quotes from him. Let me start off with the first one, and this kind of goes back to the team being in shape and like being in the practice facility a lot in August and September. Cronin said that they all wish that they had a game tonight.
Yeah.
Like
awesome.
Cronin wishes we were doing the Blazers Uprise post-game show right now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
I wish they were too. I mean,
yeah.
1 week from tonight we will be, right?
Yeah, preseason though. It sounds like they're ready to go in terms of regular season. So that's was cool to hear. He called it a competitive, athletic, skilled group that'll be fun to watch, and I think that goes back to the style of play that'll be entertaining. That we saw in that 4-game win streak last year. And then what I already touched on, that this group put in more effort in the offseason. He said they put in more effort in the offseason than any other team that he had been with. And he's been in Portland since what? 2006?
6 or 7, yeah. It's been 15 or 16 years.
Yeah. So that's a long time. So you love hearing that. It's like this team is in here putting in all this work already. Like they're serious about trying to win basketball games. Like they will compete on the defensive end. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about that.
Yep. He said one of the first things he said was he's confident they'll be watchable, which is kind of funny. Like, what does he care if they're watchable or not? I
I
know,
mean, I
obviously,
think
the fans they want the product to be good, but yeah.
I mean, I think Cronin knew like the style of play and some of the guys that they had in was a problem in terms of winning basketball, but then also like he played basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's a hoop head. I think he, himself, he might not have liked watching the brand of basketball as much as a team that moves the ball, is connected, and everything they preach today. Just as a basketball fan himself.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he says the team's going to be super competitive. He says he likes the talent, the mentality, and also the young guys, which was another theme we haven't really touched upon yet. But a lot of talk about how good some of the young guys are, and that's always nice to hear.
Yeah, there was a comment. Was it Cronin? Because I thought I wrote this down, but I'm not seeing it. But there was a comment like the league just doesn't realize how talented the young players are in Portland.
That was from a player, and I'll wait to say who.
Was that from a player?
Yes.
Okay. Actually,
I want to talk about that later.
Yeah. I thought that was Cronin or Chauncey, man. But yeah, like in terms of the young guys, I mean, that's going to be the X factor. Is just like how good can these guys be? That's why I like the upside with this team.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for spoiling that.
No problem. Give guys time to acclimate to Chauncey's system and play with Dame. So it sounds like they're going to be patient. I think, once again, if you've been listening to the show, the Blazers aren't. They said they're still not done with the roster or whatever several times earlier in the offseason. But this is the roster, and it's going to be the roster for at least a chunk into the season. They're going to give it some time to see how good they are. So don't expect any moves or anything before the season. I think that was pretty apparent. And he even said he didn't really have urgency to improve the roster right now. He wanted to see how it was first.
Yep, I agree. Anything else from Cronin? Because that's all the notes I had on him. I kind of
he was asked about how they find time for the young guys while also having a lot of veterans. He said they have to find the balance of developing those guys along with fine-tuning, giving time to the vets to fine-tune things. So you can't just like go all in on one or the other. He did say that he completely trusts Chauncey's decision there, and that he was leaving it up to him about what to do with guys like Shaedon Sharpe, how many minutes they'll play, and all that kind of stuff. But he also said that he doesn't think Chauncey is the kind of guy who would hold a rookie back if he was earning minutes and stuff like that. So all good things to hear. He was asked about the size of the roster, if that's still an issue. He said that he realizes they're small, but that they specifically went after guys who play bigger than their size and who play a certain way and focus more on that versus size, which is, once again, a little different than what he was saying before the offseason started. But, I mean, he did get Chauncey's guys, and he did get guys who play bigger than they are, so it's not like he's lying or making that up or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was the thing that I think Chauncey said too, was like you can't make all the moves in one off season, which I get.
Yep. And then Dame's extension gives them time to be calculated, so they don't have to rush it. His exact quote there was, "Don't have to be super duper urgent to win." I don't know what you feel about that. I mean, you could argue that going all in, it needs to happen at some point, but I also don't necessarily think there's, like, you have to do it. Like, you have to trade all your future picks or whatever. Like, you don't have to do that necessarily. I think being patient is the best approach sometimes too.
Yep.
Because
Uh,
honestly, if we traded all our future picks and didn't have Sharp and Jabari Walker right now, and those guys turn out to be really good, like that helps us more, I think, than trading all our future stuff for and not having any future on top of that, you know. So I could see it both ways, but I know some people that's something that they've been waiting for years is an all-in move, and I just don't think that's necessarily going to happen right now. Still could happen later in the season. Um, and that the only thing there's two more things. He was asked about people who are injured. Something that scared me a little bit. He did say there was a couple of guys with soft tissue things going on right now, but that weren't serious. But we know in the past couple of years we've had a little bit of an issue with, I think it was it calves or quads or something, like some sort of leg muscle guys missing games because of those. So hopefully that's not an issue. And then he said Gary Payton II was the only one who wasn't ready to go for training camp this week.
yeah. Yeah, which is good that Shaden Sharp's ready to go.
Yep. And then the last thing I want to say is he was asked specifically about letting Anisha Curry go, and he declined to comment on reasoning other than thanking her for her time here and saying that she did a great job of developing the younger players. So, I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't give a reason for it, though, man,
No.
which is just awkward.
Yeah.
If Olshey didn't give a reason for that, the reaction would have been monumental. Okay? Like, what? That's it. Everybody would be talking about how Olshey didn't give a reason for why they fired Anisha Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be all over Twitter. Like, dude, like that would have been what we started off the stream with.
Yeah.
Was all the reaction, like that would have been the storyline over everything else. And it's like, since it's Cronin, man, it's like a lot of people are just like, yeah, okay. Just kind of weird.
Andrew says they turned around and hired Tina Thompson, though. Was that a PR move? Maybe, but why? I mean, scouts aren't for PR. She was hired as a scout, so I don't know. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, so, I don't know. Like, I don't think that Anisha Curry hiring was a PR move. I don't think they just fire her for no reason, so I assume they have a legitimate reason that they just felt like they shouldn't talk about. So, like, yeah, okay, no big deal. It's just, if that's Olshey, though, the reaction would have been completely different. So, not, like, I'm not trying to defend Olshey or anything. Like, at the end of it, I could stand the dude, and at this point, I'd take Cronin over Olshey, like, no doubt about that. It's just interesting to think about. Just interesting to think about. Just food for thought, I guess.
I do want to say one more thing about Cronin I forgot about. He mentioned that communication is critical, and ultimately he's going to get, like, his moves are going to be whether he keeps the job or not, or how he's viewed. But I do want to give him credit for, he does seem to have no problem taking Chauncey's input, taking his assistant GM's input. And so I think that is going to serve him well, that he isn't afraid to let some other people make decisions too. Ultimately, it'll come down to his final decision too, and hopefully they agree on a lot of those decisions. But I think he is more than willing to listen to smart people he has around him, and I think that'll bode well for him.
Yep. Absolutely. That's kind of been what he's been doing, which is nice to have a GM like that. Who do you want to talk about in terms of players? Let's start off with players.
Let's get Hankins out of the way before we do the players.
You want to talk about Hankins?
Yeah.
I have nothing there.
There's just a couple things.
I'm going to open my window while you talk about it.
Interesting. He said that season ticket renewal was at 85%, which is the lowest since 2012 that he had seen. Blamed a lot of that on COVID, but I don't know. So that means that if you were a season ticket holder last year, how many of them are now season ticket holders this year? So he's saying that it's 85% isn't very good in terms of the Blazers, at least. I don't know how it compares to other teams. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people are taking a wait and see approach with this team after not having a lot of fun at games last year.
Yeah. Yep. There's something else. Oh, All-Star game. Did you talk about that?
Yeah. So
because that's the other thing.
Yeah, All-Star game. So someone said there's an open All-Star game in 2025. Is he going to make a bid? And he made it sound like their goal is to be All-Star ready by 2030. So if you're hoping that sometime soon we'll have an All-Star game, it'll be most likely 8 years at the minimum. Said they have to improve both the hotels and the arena first. Mentioned the scoreboard as one of the specific things. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like, really, for the All-Star weekend? Like, that's not good enough?
I mean, I've never really had a problem with the scoreboard. I don't know.
He also made it sound like the area around the arena isn't good enough, which I agree with. Dude, what is around the arena?
Well, I mean, ever since they built the Moda Center, they've been talking about having like a thriving community around there. It's never happened, so I'll believe that when I see it.
I mean, like, they already own the stadium, so I guess that might be a part, but they've owned it for a while. Like, I don't know since when, but they've owned it for a while. It's just a situation where, like, they'd have to buy land. You know, like, they'd have to buy land around the arena and change it, and that's the thing. You have... It sucks that you have the train tracks running along the river. Like, obviously I get it. It's industrial. And there's a lot of industrial area kind of around the Moda Center. So, I'm not saying that shouldn't be what it is. But, like, that's where you could build restaurants on the river with views of downtown, man. Like, it could be really, really cool. The problem is you got, all the tracks that run right along the river. So you can't. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, they could figure some out there, but the other thing is he talked about the lease. They're going to try to negotiate the lease soon. He mentioned something about the Memorial Coliseum being close to having the lease done on that. I don't know. I guess
they might
both.
Tear that down?
No, I don't think they would. I didn't get that sense, but yeah.
Because that's the thing is, like, there's always a second arena during All-Star Weekend that they do stuff at. I mean, that is the one positive, is you could do it at Memorial.
Yeah.
Like, right next to the stadium. So it's just, you don't have enough around it, though. So it's like, how do they fix that?
Mm-hmm. And then he did bring up, unprompted, the announcers not traveling to games. What he said was kind of weird. I didn't really understand what he said about that. Like, if he kind of made it seem like he still wanted to do that in the future. But then he went on to say that the broadcast is going to be very stat-based, and they have a lot of new looks and feels to it that they're going to implement.
As somebody that does what I do, and what we do, Eric, I'm very curious to see what they have. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to... I'll talk about it when we see it. We'll probably see it with the first preseason game. I'm curious, as a stat head and somebody that's gotten into, everything that I do with this YouTube channel in terms of graphics, animations, that sort of thing, like just trying to come up with new and improved stuff every year. It does sound cool that they're doing the same sort of thing with the broadcast, because they've kind of had the same feels. They'll switch things up slightly, but it's been kind of the same thing. So I am... looking forward to I'm looking forward to see what they have. Fingers crossed that it's good.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of getting Root Sports on big streaming platforms, he says that those kind of platforms do not want regional sports networks, only national sports networks, which I don't know about that.
Yeah, so in regards to that, I mean, the future is I mean, I think the future is just you pay for the ability to watch your team.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no blackouts like NBA League Pass has, right? Like, I think that's the future in terms of NBA broadcasting is maybe it's not even on, a specific channel or whatever. It's, like I brought up in the past, every team has their own YouTube channel. You have YouTube memberships, and the NBA could probably forge a deal with YouTube itself where they could broadcast games to YouTube, and you pay $5 a month, and YouTube gets a small percentage of it, right? Like, I think even if it's not through YouTube, it could be through something else. Like the MLS has done something kind of like that. I think that is the future. And that's the way that it's going to be worked around because YouTube TV, like regional sports networks and like streaming providers, YouTube TV, Hulu, etc., can't seem to come to common ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in regards to the next TV deal, I don't know like how the NBA's TV deal affects like regional and like team specific team deals. But I think in the future you're going to see some sort of change around kind of how they structure team broadcasts.
Yeah, hopefully. I just want to be able to watch the channel I pay for wherever I go. I don't think that's too much to ask.
I'm hoping that how do you say Evoca? Is that how you say Evoca TV?
I think you said it differently, but yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, I think you said it differently. I don't remember, but I'm hoping that they improve.
Evoca or something.
Yeah, like because they don't have like mobile streaming, and you have to get a physical box.
Mm-hmm.
But it's $25 a month. They have Root and then like some other things or something that might be the best option. And honestly, I'm just gonna say it out loud, like I will try and get them as a sponsor this season. But like. Also, it's something where they've said that they want to get it, like create an app where you could stream it away from home.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they're serious about that.
Well, this is all they have to do. Root Sports, I mean, the app's not great, but they have a streaming app, but Xfinity is not on there. So if you're an Xfinity customer, you don't get it. All you have to do is add Evoca to that, and you can then, wherever you are, log into rootsports.com or go on the app and type in that you're an Evoca, click on the Evoca logo, and then sign in, and you can watch Root Sports wherever you are. That's like such an easy solution. Like I said, if you're paying for a service that has that channel, it just seems outdated that you can't watch it from anywhere. But I don't understand because NBC Sports Northwest had an app, and I could watch it from work, or if I was, on vacation or whatever, I could still watch Blazer games on my phone or computer, and it was great. But now none of the Root Sports stuff work with any of my connections. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing is like the NBA and specific teams don't have control.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to like where their broadcast goes, what it's available on, like who it's available to, because like certain customers, a certain, like you can't watch it away from your house with Comcast, even though they have a streaming app. You have to use your in-home Wi-Fi, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, I think in the future you're gonna see not only the NBA but maybe other leagues. Like the NFL has a great system, like it's CBS, NBC, like it's all on just major, networks. But in regards to the NBA and probably baseball as well in the future, you're going to see it become a situation where teams get control back. And it's like if you have a partnership with YouTube, teams will run their own broadcasts and then broadcast it to their YouTube channel. And then you just have to go pay $5 a month and don't have to pay for all the extra stuff that the NBA isn't making money off you paying for. So, and then the teams will have control over how they run their broadcast and how they package it, and it's going to be team-based broadcasts instead of like there's a bunch of Bally Sports and it's all the same branding, like cookie cutter, like the same stuff if you watch, the Hornets or the Suns or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same graphics. So I'm here for that. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. And then you weave that into League Pass somehow, and there you go. And you don't have blackouts then.
Yeah. Well, the way when you talk or hear Hankins talk about being innovative when it comes to the feel and look of the broadcast and all that kind of stuff. Why, like, it was just a year ago. Why couldn't they have been innovative with, like, getting just doing this now? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just make their, like, start a Blazer network or something that's pay per view, or you pay a certain amount a month, like you said, and you could run it through any number of streaming services, or just have it be its own thing. And I think people would have been fine with that as long as everyone can have access to it. That's all people care about. Yeah, I just don't understand why the innovation couldn't have been from that angle versus, oh, sorry, we just can't, not everyone can watch our games.
Yep. Yep. I mean, and that's the thing. If you're broadcasting through YouTube, man, it'll only like make those channels bigger. So like behind the scenes episodes on stuff on YouTube, on team specific YouTube channels, will get more traction, get more viewership. Like it's there's so much untapped potential in my opinion, which is like YouTube and team channels that like if they're smart, if the league's smart, if teams are smart, that they'll tap into the future. Because like everybody can go on YouTube and watch a live stream on their phone, on their laptop, like wherever. It's so easy. It's so easy, and it's like if you're paying for that, it's easy. Like you know exactly where to go if there's a game on. It's like you guys know right after a game, if you're no matter where you are, if you go on YouTube after a Blazer game and you log into the app and you go to our channel, we're live and people show up. So it's an untapped market, and I think it's a better system. So I didn't plan on talking about this for a lot. I've talked about it in the past, but I mean that's where I think it should go, and hopefully is where it's going. Because I'm tired of Root Sports holding everything hostage and it not being on streaming platforms, and it sounds like it's never going to be. They tried to pitch hope last offseason, like, yeah, they're working on getting on YouTube TV and Hulu and whatnot. And this offseason is just like, yeah, they don't want it. They don't want Root. So, what can you do? You don't have control. Shout Dro, $2 donor. What's up, Dro? He says, we the people
Dorona.
want to watch what we pay for, SMH. Yeah, I don't want to pay for freaking HGTV, Eric, to watch the Blazers or whatever. Like, you know, there's different packages, sports packages and whatnot, but I don't care about SEC TV and MLB Network 2 or whatever, you know, like, I don't need all that extra stuff. I need my Red Zone, and I need Root Sports so I can watch the Mariners and I can watch the Blazers. That's all I need. And I think you're going away from ordering packages, and is going to be more specific in the future. At least I hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Thanks for the Drono.
Thanks for the Drono, Dro. All right, let's go back to Media Day comments, and let's touch upon whoever you want to talk about next.
Damian Lillard. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. I do want to say something. I thought he kind of was funny, but before I do that, well, he first mentioned that Grant has been impressive, but he said several young players he sees taking a jump, and specifically mentioned Keon as the person who has improved the most from last
Let me thank this dodo because it's literally saying that. Shout out Greg Hughes Investigates, $5 dono says, it was interesting what Dame said about Keon. Don't know if you discussed it as I came in late. Here you go, Gray. Thank you for the $5 dono. Yep. Go on, Eric.
I mean, he did specifically say that most improved from last year. He wasn't saying that Keon was the best of the young players. But Keon was mentioned several times by multiple people, and so good to hear that he is in there working hard and showing out in practices.
Yeah. I mean, I just dropped the player preview on him on the main channel, so if you haven't watched it, watch it after this stream, and I'll have a Justice Winslow one in the upcoming hours, and then I just got finished these by the end of September, and I have like 9 to go, and we got like 4 days left, so you're gonna have multiple uploads. I have to finish them though, so just be prepared for an upload, a bunch of uploads on the main channel. If you don't know the main channel, search Blazers Uprise on YouTube and you'll find it. But yeah, I dropped one on Keon, man. It's no matter how good he looks, I just don't know what the path to playing time is.
I mean, if any of these young guys are so good, whether that's Sharp, whether that's Jabari Walker, I'll even throw Greg Brown in there. If they're so good that they earn playing time in Chauncey's mind over one of these guys that are supposed to be in the rotation, I mean, that's only a good thing, but yeah, I just don't see how any of them are going to be able to do that this year. I mean, I'd love to see Keon be so good that he plays over certain guys, but then that's going to make some of our moves since the trade deadline not make a ton of sense if we have him developing. So, I mean, maybe we have players to trade then, but one of the things that was important, I think, that Dame said, though, was that the young guys were improving, not just getting better. Like he said, anyone can just become a better scorer or whatever, but that they were getting better in ways that could actually contribute to a team. And he really liked seeing that those guys were doing that. And I think it was pretty obvious when he mentioned Keon around that time that it's probably because of his defense. And I'm sure that had to do with a lot of what he was saying, is that we need some of those guys to come in and be just animals on defense, and hopefully they do.
Yeah. He wasn't really asked about defense, to be honest. Yeah. Like, I was disappointed. He had an 18-minute interview, and nobody in the media, like, specifically asked him about, like, okay, where do you need to be better on defense this year as a team and as an individual? Like, come on, man. I don't want to come up here I don't want to rant about media. I've ranted a ton about media and bad questions or not asking the right questions in the past. But, like, how is Dame not really asked about defense?
I mean, thank you for not asking him about his loyalty to the Blazers, though.
Yeah, it's just, like, disappointing. I wanted to hear him, like, elaborate on the problems with the defense in the past couple years. And, you know, the talk was last year that you guys were going to be a better defensive team and hold each other more accountable, and you guys still struggled. So what is the difference this year? Is it a difference in personnel? Like, what needed to change from last year? What went wrong just something around that. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing. I was disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I know what he would say, though.
What would he say?
He would say that we have guys who are focused on that this year, and that'll take the pressure off.
Yeah, I mean, which isn't the wrong answer or anything. Yeah. You know, I'd like to hear him say it, though. Like, we, you know, didn't have the right pieces last year. You know, he probably wouldn't be that direct, but yeah, we have guys that'll be more competitive. Like, that shows you what was wrong last year. We didn't have guys that'll be competitive enough.
I mean, when it comes to this next thing I want to talk about, he was pretty direct, so he might have said that.
Go ahead.
He basically said, I mean, this is going to sound like a bit of a humble brag if you watch this show. Just want to say, I don't think my source watches Blazers Uprise, but just in case you do, thank you for everything. But, I mean, those of you who have watched us this summer know that we had a stream specifically talking about how high Dame was on Anthony Simons, that he considers him a kind of a 1B to his 1A and kind of his equal. And he flat out said that CJ is the type that could score the ball, but that he's been grooming and mentoring Ant to be more like him, not CJ. And that's what he thinks is going to be the difference, and that they're going to be a better connected backcourt because they both play the same way, versus CJ, who could get his shots and score, but it wasn't really helping the team a lot of the time. So I felt like he kind of gave a shot towards CJ there, and I'm all for it, man. I was loving it. Not that I have a problem with CJ or anything. Like, we both really respect CJ and stuff like that.
He unfollowed you, so now you're praying on his downfall, right?
Yeah, it's nothing personal or anything like that. I mean, because he could have very easily just said, you know, CJ and I were a great backcourt for years. Hopefully Ant and I have half the success we did, you know. He could have said something like that, but he was like specific. Like, I've been mentoring this guy to, when you push the ball up, don't be looking for your shot. Look for the open guy up ahead of the court. And he said CJ wasn't doing that, but I've told Ant and mentored him for 4 years now to do that kind of stuff, and that you don't need the ball to be effective, and you don't have to always look for your shot and things like that. So,
I mean, I do want to talk about that after you finish the whole pushing the ball up. Well, it's just, like I was kind of baffled by that, because you push the ball up the court. If you should be scanning the floor until you are around the 3-point line, because you're not pulling up from half. You're not driving past your guy from half if he's normally standing at the 3-point line. So it's like, if you're playing in transition or pushing up the ball and it's not like a completely set defense, you should always be looking for like how the floor is set up and what your reads might be if you do attack, or, you know, who's on you, or, you know, if they're scrambling to get back and maybe Dame has a mismatch across the court. You should be noticing that around half court. Like, when I play, that's the type of stuff like I try and look for. And yeah, it's rec league and, you know, I'm a scrub and all that, but like, that's just the type of things that I feel like are very common in basketball if you're a point guard type of player, right? So I don't know, like, CJ's very talented, and I've defended CJ like crazy, but if that's truly the case, man, like, it's kind of hard to tell. But if that's truly the case where he just doesn't even scan the floor when he brings the ball up, like, that's baffling to me, because I mean, that's what you got to look for, and that's what good teams do. They'll push the ball up one side of the floor, and they will run like super quick action off the ball on the other side of the floor and get good shots out of it and like get into their motion offense out of it.
Yeah, I think more so than that, I think the point he was trying to make was Dame does a really good job of picking his spots sometimes. He's gotten a lot better as he's gotten older at this, when he just knows when to, like, a certain player needs the ball in this possession, or this guy's scored, like, when CJ was going off, he had no problem deferring to him, stuff like that. Whereas I don't think CJ necessarily thought about that kind of stuff in game. He just was still like, oh, I'm going to get my shot off on this possession. I haven't touched the ball in, in 3 possessions, and it doesn't really matter what's been going on around him. So I think he's been trying to teach Ant that temperament of picking your spots and not always needing to play a certain way. You have to kind of adjust to how your starters or the players around you are playing. If you're running the second unit, you have to switch up from what you were doing when you were playing with the first unit, and things like that. And I just love hearing that Dame's been in Ant's ear from day one, and he feels like he's finally ready to be another Dame out there. And I'm really excited about that, because I really believe in Ant's ability.
Yep. But that type of comment is exactly why I am not worried about Dame fitting into the style of play that Chauncey Billups wants to see, because I've heard a lot of people like question, like, well, can Dame play that style of basketball? Will Dame embrace that style of basketball? He's been a ball-dominant player and whatnot, but like, he'll make comments like those, and it's like, that's the type of basketball that Chauncey wants to say. Like, Dame sees the floor, Dame looks to get other guys advantages. The problem is, it's just the offense has been set up for him to dominate the ball and make everything happen.
Right.
So he makes comments like that. That's why I have no worries about him fitting into the style of play, because he wants to win. He doesn't care about his stats. Like, he's not a guy who's just out there trying to get his, like maybe CJ McCollum. So that's the thing, is like, I would be a little bit worried about CJ McCollum fitting into that style of play. Damian Lillard, I'm not at all. And Anthony Simons, I'm not at all, because he had Damian Lillard mentoring him and like teaching him how to look for that type of stuff. So
yeah, and I mean, CJ is a good player. You definitely need players who can score like he can, create his own shot. But one of the most important things from that other stream that I said was that Dame had mentioned that he, exactly like you just said, he's totally comfortable playing off ball because he believes Ant will help him if he has the ball in the hands, or even Josh Hart and Justice Winslow and players like that. He thinks those guys can actually make him better off ball. Whereas, I mean, let's face it, Al-Farouq Aminu, is he really going to do that much? You know what I mean?
Robert Covington.
Right. Like, those guys, like, we've argued in the past that within the framework of an offense, they can make passes and do things, but they're not going to like actually create or penetrate or create an advantage all on their own without some sort of setup for that.
Let me add to that. Like, even Norman Powell, he could penetrate and create, but he was constantly just looking for his own shot.
Right, he didn't pass.
It wasn't something where he's making the right read and passing out and that sort of thing, right? And before that, who was the starting small forward? It was Maurice Harkless, and then it was like Rodney Hood the year before, but he got hurt, and then you had Melo starting for a period of time. Like, Dame hasn't had guys like that.
And the important thing, if you're trying to emulate like a Golden State system is that it's based out of chaos, and it's a situation where they don't the predictable thing comes back up again because they don't just come down the court and run a Curry Draymond pick and roll every time. Like Draymond brings the ball up and Curry's doing this one play and he's over in a different spot the next play, or coming off a screen a different way, or curling a different way, or whatever the case may be. It's just different, and you throw so many looks at it that it's hard to prepare for, because you can't just say, if we take away this one thing, we can maybe really limit their offensive abilities. And I feel like in the playoffs specifically, outside of Dame going crazy against Denver, that happened time and time again, where if a team shut down our pick and roll, we didn't have a counter to it. We were screwed. And CJ could get hot and create shots out of nothing, but is that sustainable through a whole playoffs? I mean, it could win you a series if someone stays hot for an entire series. But yeah, we need to have players that are more like that unpredictable and can do multiple things on the court. Versatile, yeah. And that was another word that came up a lot today. And I think on both ends, this is going to be the most versatile team we have.
Yeah, because it's not even about they should still obviously run a lot of pick and roll with Dame and Nurk. Dame's one of the best pick and roll players in the game. You still have guys that can ISO, Dame and Ant. Like, if they have a going, or they have, a defender that they can attack, you don't just never isolate them. Mm-hmm. It's just all about being versatile and, as you said and as they said, unpredictable. The problem is they bought too much into the isolation and pick and roll stuff, and they became 100% predictable. So it's just being able to do the right thing at the right times. It's not always hunting your shot. It's getting to your shot if it's there, but making the right read and the right pass. If it's not, if other guys have it going, give it up, play off the ball. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a guy that you should absolutely attack and isolate, then give up the ball and let the team manufacture shots. And then if it's 7 on the shot clock and, Dame ends up back with the ball up top, then he isolates. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the offense didn't generate a shot. Like, that's how Golden State does it. That's how good teams do it. The problem is that's not how the Blazers have done it in the past. So now you have the right type of players and the right coach to be able to do that type of stuff. I am fully encouraged. I have no worries about Dame buying into that style of play and being able to do that. And here's the thing, like, if Ant is, he's mentored Ant to be just like him, it's not even a situation where you look at it like Dame's the point guard and Ant's the shooting guard, which a lot of people do. Like, it's just basketball. Like, if Ant's bringing the ball up the court and Dame's playing off the ball on that possession, you would think of it as like Ant's the point guard and Dame's the shooting guard because Ant's bringing it up, right? But like on the court, they're not actually thinking about it like that. Like, there's gonna be situations, if Josh Hart's playing with them, Josh Hart's bringing up the ball, and Ant and Dame are off the ball and they're doing something, they're moving or whatever. And there are situations where Ant will be the one bringing up the ball, Dame will be the one bringing up the ball. Like, in the end, it's like Dame is the, like, Dame is the point guard, Ant's the shooting guard, whatever, but in the end, it's basketball, and it's not so pigeonholed. You know what I mean? Like, it's more fluid than just this is the point guard, this is the shooting guard, this is the small forward. And that's what people talk about with, like, the positionless basketball that we have nowadays is, if you have a center that can bring the ball up and handle the ball, like if, I don't know, Chet Holmgren was your center this year and he panned out and was healthy or whatever, like, you could see him, that type of guy, bringing the ball up the floor and guys running off him. You see Draymond at times bring the ball up the floor. So it's not just about positions. It's just about having certain skill sets that do certain things on the court and then combining them into a product that fits together and is cohesive, right? You don't just want to have 5 playmakers where none of them can shoot. You want to have a certain balance of playmaking, shooting, defense, shot creation ability, and that's how you find a cohesive unit that plays the right way.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you know, okay, so in that 4-game winning streak, we had Ant, Nurk, Winslow, and Hart starting. Do you know who the 5th starter was? Do you remember?
Was it Ellaby?
It was CJ Ellaby, right?
Yeah.
So now just imagine, not even Dame touching the ball or anything, just him being in CJ Ellaby's position instead of that. And then imagine how much better a team would be that won 4 games in a row with CJ Ellaby in those spots, missing every single 3-pointer he took, I think, during that series. You know what I mean? So, like, he doesn't, and I'm hoping, and based off Dame's words, I think he can see this, where he has a team of whatever group of 4 he's with are probably good enough to at least compete and keep it close with teams. And if he's like the guy spotting up in the corner of 3 or coming off a screen or whatever and getting those kick out looks, I mean, it's game over if we can play that way and he doesn't even have to create that much this year and saves his energy for defense, because that would I think let him play a lot better on defense. So yeah, I mean, just switching him in and being the exact role, I'm hoping that that's what he noticed during that season, is that he can allow some of these guys to succeed and he doesn't need to be the guy who always has to take over.
Yeah. And this is the type of basketball that wins games. Like, it's crazy how much heat me and you got in the past for saying this is the type of style of basketball we want, and for criticizing Terry Stotts for just absolutely not even, like, trying. Like, yeah, he didn't have the best pieces, but, like, there's no reason we should have been last in the league in assists. And, I mean, we were below tanking teams defensively, man. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. Like, the roster wasn't built like this one is. But that's the thing. For people, it was like, for people that supported Stotts, it's like, well, it either has to be him or it has to be the roster. Mm-hmm. And it like couldn't be both, and it was black and white. And that's what baffled me in the past, man. And we have a lot of people that still to this day do not like us. And it started off with us being critical of the style of play. But it's like, now, if this team, Eric, plays with this style of play, they will win games. And everybody will love it. Everybody. Even the people that love Terry Stotts, they'll love it. Because it's fun basketball. It's fun to watch, and it's what wins, and it's just better. But there will be people out there that say, well, Chauncey has the right roster, and they'll give him no credit. But if Terry Stotts, I would have no confidence in Terry Stotts being the coach of this team and getting the style of play to where it needs to be. Like, I have more confidence in Chauncey Billups being that type of coach. Mm-hmm. Like, I just do. So
yeah,
it's just like, this is what we've been asking for. All right, and we said that last year we didn't have the right pieces. Now we have the right pieces. All right, in my opinion. So, dude, I'm excited. I'm getting myself too excited, man.
Nice, I like it. But this.
Wait, let me take this dono first. Okay. I don't know what this dono means. Caleb Pendergraph, $2 dono. At this point, sailing the high seas will be easier. That was in reference to something.
I think that's when we were talking about the TV rights or whatever.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Caleb, for the $2 dono. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. So you and I, this is kind of a misconception. So we were not happy with some of the trades at the trade deadline. That's apparent, right? But it wasn't for reasons people think. It wasn't because we didn't want to trade all those guys. We were sitting here screaming that they had to be traded, and we had to move on for them. It was more just the compensation. And if you were going to go all in on this youth movement, I felt like that was the right play. I think you did too. Kind of building around Dame with like a younger, fresher core that could rejuvenate him. And he actually said that today. He said new players, all these young guys make him feel fresh, and that was cool to hear him, because it wasn't, oh, we drafted Shaedon Sharpe, it's going to take 3 years for him to contribute, right? He doesn't say
That's
crap
how
like
some
that.
People seriously try and make it seem like Dame thinks, which is just like,
Dame,
do they think we're stupid? Do we think that, like, we know Dame, man?
Yeah. Dame left the room pissed off, right, when we drafted Sharpe because he didn't want to draft another young guy. Whatever. Like,
should we just say who said that at this point?
It's all good. I don't.
You guys are in the right spot listening to us. Let's just say that right now, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Because anyway.
But anyways, so Dame says, again, about Sharpe, he has natural talent. He likes his disposition, that he's calm. He feels like he has the same demeanor that he does, where he doesn't get too high or too low. And Dame specifically said he's the type of guy that could change the direction of this team if he contributes, right? And that's what you need. That's what we've been talking about, Tori. You need guys who can pop and take that next step. There's a lot of good teams. Phoenix Suns. Sorry, Gabe. They don't have pop guys, right? They have good players. They have a good team, a really good team. If things come together. Now they didn't seem too good today, but which we could talk about later. But like they don't have like a Shaedon Sharpe that if he's really freaking good, that takes that team to another level, right? They have a level, and they're either going to reach that or they're not, just based on health and if players, stay relatively good or whatever. But like we have players at pretty much every position that could take a huge jump or could contribute as a young player and change the direction of this team. And Dame himself specifically said it and recognized it. And I just this is why I love Dame so much. Another reason, I guess, is this guy gets it, man. He doesn't. It's not about because they traded for Jeremy Grant. They did make a move to keep him happy, but they didn't have to like keep CJ and now he's not like pouting because they traded him and they didn't go all in for OG Anunoby, who he really wants and still wants, which I'm sure he still would like OG, but he's going to roll with the players he has and believe in them, and he thinks they can do the job, and it's empowering to these young players both to hear that from Chauncey, because Chauncey is good at letting them grow and be themselves and having confidence in them, and then you have your best player who has confidence in all these young guys to help him reach a championship, which he said he was motivated by, is winning a championship. And that's just so cool to hear him say that and to not be like this diva who, oh, you better trade for an all-star. I haven't played with an all-star yet. Come get me this guy. No, he's like, no, man, Ant's going to be an all-star and Sharpe could be an all-star if he develops and stuff like that. And I just love the guy, man. I'm so happy he's a Blazer.
Yep, absolutely. Let me take a couple donos. Shout out Nate J Dub, $5 dono, says, been a minute since I donated, listening while still at the office since I procrastinated on time tracking. Anyway, thanks for the content. Hashtag Rip City flexing emoji. Thank you, Nate J Dub, for the $5 dono. It's always cool. It's always cool to hear that we're able to entertain you guys while you work. I don't know. I like that, man. That's cool. If I can make your work day, if we can make your work day a little bit easier, a little bit lighter, like that's awesome, man. That's cool to me. So thank you for the $5 dono, Nate J Dub. And then shout out Chris Branlin, $10 dono, says best Blazers channel ever. Thank you, Chris, for the $10 dono. And
Thanks,
yeah,
Chris.
we try our best, man. We try our best to be. So
hope you guys enjoy all the stuff we have for you this season. And,
we got lots of content.
Can't wait for post-game shows, man.
Because it's gonna be hard to keep them under 2.5 hours, in my opinion, because there's so many storylines and so many things to talk about with the style of play. Where in the past it's like, well, we isolated too much, and when Dame was out, the offense went to crap because the system's not gonna like. It was the same kind of repetitive stuff. It got tiring a little bit, in an 82-game season. But this year, with the new guys, with all the young guys, with Chauncey finally having guys that fit his system, with Dame finally being healthy, like there's so many things to look forward to this season in terms of just the entertainment value. Like having storylines makes things more entertaining in any sport. Mm-hmm. Storylines makes things better. I mean, it's what movies and TV shows are built around, right? Like entertainment needs storylines for the most part. Like, you have so many storylines around this team going into the season and so many things to watch out for that it's going to be very entertaining, in my opinion, to watch games. Even if they struggle at times, it's just going to be interesting, very interesting to see how it all plays out, where in previous years, we knew exactly how things were going to play out, and it was going to be exactly the same cast of characters, same style of system. So I'm
Maybe not last year, but
yeah, I mean, last year was just, there was some excitement, but it still wasn't the right players. You know what I mean? It was still kind of the same roster from the playoffs the year before, same starting lineup and everything. It's just we're going to try and get him playing differently. This year, it's a completely different roster. And with young players that are a step ahead, and Shaden and Jabari Walker, man, yeah. The post-game shows are going to be more fun. Honestly, I think I'm going to have more fun doing post-game shows this year than any year prior.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dame also said he's expecting a lot from Nas, and that he's going to have a great season, not hopefully he has a good season. Okay, we've got 6 spots back. And then, yeah, he was asked what he was motivated by. I already said this, but he said he was motivated by a championship. Still wants to do that here. And then he was asked if he thinks this roster can achieve that. And he said he believed in Joe and Chauncey, and that this roster gives him a better opportunity or chance to do that. He didn't say it could necessarily, but he always thinks it can. But I think it's pretty clear he thinks this roster is about as good of a roster as he's had, at least since the Aldridge days.
Yep, absolutely. So let's try and move forward on some players. Who do you want to talk about next?
Let's just go to next on my list is Ant.
All right, what you got from Ant?
He said it would be a slight adjustment to play with Dame, but he also said he thinks it'll be a super easy adjustment because he's always in constant communication with him. And, so that'll be good. He said that Chauncey has a good system. It's free-flowing, and that he likes being able to move around and that players move a lot. He's excited about Jeremy Grant's experience and versatility. He wants to compete for a championship. His goal is to become an all-star. I don't know how important being an all-star is, in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's cool that he wants to be good enough to be recognized as an all-star. And then in terms of defense, he said it takes good teammates to help him become a better defender, which is kind of true. But everyone needs to buy into the defense, and that he needs to it's just going to take a lot of effort, and he's got to make a conscious decision to give that effort. But he definitely said that good teammates help him become a better defender.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to say on Ant?
No.
I didn't want to think this dono until we're done talking about it. So shout out Steve Peterson, $5 dono says, do you think the Blazers beat Golden State with a healthy Nurkic in 2019 and a competent coach, aka not Mr. Smiles and accountability? I don't think they necessarily beat him, but they would have had a chance because they came out in... Dude, this is exactly what I'm talking about. They came out in Game 1 running drop scheme on screens 30 feet away from the rim. Dame was forced to go over against Steph on screens that are 6 feet above the three-point line, and then the center was standing in the paint running drop scheme. Steph was literally just walking into threes. Wide open threes. The scheme was set up to give the best shooter ever wide open threes in Game 1. Mm-hmm. And it was ridiculous. And then Stotts basically got bullied in the post-game press conference by media and was very defensive and whatever, but then came out in Game 2, Game 3, Game 4 and switched it up. And the Blazers had huge leads in Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4, right, Eric? All three of those games?
I think they had a lead in Game 1, too, in the second half, but yeah.
No, I thought they were down the whole second half in Game 1 because they were running drop scheme and stuff was killing them, and they were down 60-48 around halftime, something like that. So we had huge leads, okay, in Games 2, Game 3, Game 4. Barely lost Game 4, barely lost Game 2. That was when Iggy stripped Dame on a last-second possession. It's just but we were running a defensive scheme we hadn't ran all year. Mm-hmm. Imagine if we had ran it and had the details down.
Yeah.
In games that ended up being one-possession games. We probably, win Game 2 and Game 4 in that situation, and then it's a series, and then you throw Nurkic into it, and he was playing great right before his injury. Like, yeah, they would have had a chance.
Yeah, Nurk was playing phenomenal. Just the depth they would have had that wasn't quite as good after that, outside of Myers Leonard with one half of some of the best basketball you'll ever see, I guess. But
Dude, that bench. Okay, that was the one year where we had a good bench, at least but Ennis at that point was fine off the bench, and then you had Seth Curry, Zach Collins, and Rodney Hood before his injury. Like, that bench was really, really, really good.
But yeah, when Nurk went down, it kind of took that out, and then Harkless didn't play well. I think we had Layman that year too. Still,
Layman was starting to
play
that year.
He played a lot of the year, and then barely played until someone got hurt in the playoffs. But and we had Evan Turner too. So that team, was definitely our best team in recent years. But I don't know.
That team was better than any of the Aldridge teams too.
I think if we win Game 2, they probably, I don't know. But at some point, I think they bring Durant back. And then who knows if...
I mean, but they didn't bring it back until, Game 4, Game 5 of the finals, and then he immediately got hurt. They shouldn't have brought him back. I don't think they would have brought him back in the conference finals.
I think he was, they were questioning whether to play him or not, but I think once they won the first 2 games, it was pretty obvious they were going to win the series, and I think they just were going to sit him out until they had to play him. But I think he played before Game 4 of the finals, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways,
because he played in Toronto. I think they were down 2-1, and then they brought him back, if I recall correctly.
But who knows? His Achilles could have snapped then too.
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't even ready then, and they brought him back, and they forced him back. I feel like he wouldn't have come back, but I get what you're saying. But even then, he wasn't ready to play. I mean, that's a series. That's a series where you have a chance.
And in almost every game, there was a momentum swinging play by Draymond Green where he got a rebound and took it coast to coast and went uncontested for a lay-in. And stuff, if you have a really good coach, I feel like some of those things don't happen. And like you mentioned, I feel like we would have been a little more prepared for that. Okay, Travis has played Game 5, so you were right. Sorry. And then
the Raptors had home court advantage. Yeah, so it was Game 5. Yeah.
So it's a tough question. I think we definitely make it a better series.
Because they were down 3-1, right? So he came back when they were down 3-1. Because then Toronto lost Game 5. I think they lost that Game 5, and then they won Game 6 on the road in Golden State.
Yeah,
to win the finals.
Well, because Clay went down. Did he go down the same game?
He went down in Game 6.
Oh, okay. I thought he went down Game 5 too. My memory.
He went down in Golden State. He went down in Game 6. KD went down in Game 5. Toronto was up 3-1 before KD came back. So yeah, I feel like KD wouldn't have come back in our series.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have brought him back. You don't play players. Remember, Eric, you don't play players with sore Achilles.
Yep.
That's a classic quote.
They kind of had to though.
Yeah. I mean,
he was.
You don't do it when it's Rodney Hood in Game 20 of the regular season, or whatever
exactly.
the hell.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a rant from a few years ago. Anyway.
All right.
Let's move on to
Gary Payton II.
Yes.
Just some quick notes on him. He thinks the trip for training camp will help. He thinks they have a lot of strong, smart defenders. They'll need to help the young guys develop that attitude of being tough on defense.
Sound like he wanted to mentor young guys, which is awesome. Dude, if Ant has him as a defensive mentor and Dame as an offensive mentor, I mean, he's pretty set up, man.
This was a dumb question. There wasn't a lot of dumb questions, but comparing Dame to Steph, they both have the same mentality and want to win. And then Gary Payton also said that he can play 1 through 5 and can be a center if they need to. And whatever he's asked to do, he will get the job done. Pretty confident in his
I don't know if he
abilities.
can play the one as a ball handler, but defensively, I think that's what he meant to.
Yeah.
Defensively, but you there's the question about him being weird or whatever. I still don't understand what that question really was, but it's something
Is
about
this
his
role being weird? Yeah,
I don't even remember what the answer was because the question was like, what?
Yeah.
Um.
I think
Yeah.
he just had the attitude. He just is a guy. And I mean, I know this going back to Oregon State days. He'll do whatever you want him to do. He'll do whatever it takes. He tries to win games. He's a winner, and he just does the little things, and hopefully that rubs off on his teammates.
Yep. Before we move on to the next player, shout out Gray Hughes, $5 dono. Thank you, Gray Hughes Investigates. He says, what would be cool and off topic is if you would discuss older Blazers and what they contributed, compare them to now. Lots of old time fans here. See, I do not have the knowledge to do that. Eric does. Eric, I need to look. Wait, you're to my left, right? I need to look to the left. Eric has the knowledge to be able to do that. I don't. I started watching in 2006, so. But I mean, cool idea, man. Always down for ideas that you guys want, for sure.
Yep. And then next up we have someone who I guess used this time to have a snack while he was up there.
Josh Hart.
Josh
Hart is like the most
eating
entertaining. Yeah. He called out Trent Watford for not passing him the ball to help him get 50 when he was going off against the Wizards.
Yep.
Which was funny, man. That was funny. Like, how are you playing for a tanking team as a young player and you have this role player going off and you don't just look to feed them so they get 50 when, like, the game doesn't even matter, man? Like, come on.
He's never going to let him live that down.
Yeah. Yeah. There would have been some rookie punishment for that, man.
Yeah.
Maybe there was.
He was asked what he thinks about Dame. He said Dame wants to win here, and that Dame generally wants what's best for everyone on his team, and that's refreshing to hear. He asked if he wants to start, which several of the players were.
Mm-hmm.
He said he wants to start.
He said if somebody tells you otherwise, they're either lying to you or they're foolish.
Yep. But then he also said that he'll accept the decision. I mean, I have no problem with that. I want all these guys to think that they were going to earn the starting spot. It's just how they react if they don't get it. And they all said the right things, that they'll respect whatever Chauncey's decision is. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's not like last year where they don't actually respect it, but yeah.
Yeah, and he went on to elaborate that, like, contending teams have 6, 7, 8 starting caliber players.
Yep.
So that's the thing. It's like he sounds like he would accept a bench role. I mean, that's the thing. It's like if he's getting 30 minutes a game regardless, man, I don't think he's gonna, he's not the type of guy to act like Jay Crowder or anything.
Yeah, and I think that is important to note, and I wrote that down as well. If you feel like you're a starting level player, but you also feel like there's 8 players on the team that are also starting level players, and you're like, okay, I understand. Like, coach wants me to come off the bench or whatever. Having guys who accept that and play that role and excel at that is crucial for good teams. And he talked about the camaraderie of the team and stuff like that, having players that will accept those roles and be the best version of themselves no matter what their role is. You have to have that, and I feel like we have several of those guys, and that really stood out today.
Yep, absolutely.
He also joked about how he's going to work on his golf game in training camp, which is funny.
Yeah, that is funny. He's a funny guy. He seems like the comedian of the team, for sure. Or do you want to move on to another player?
Let me just say, he also said that he does want to play more on ball, and that's something that's important to him, and that he was going to talk to Chauncey on the golf course about that. So yeah.
Yeah, man, I mean, he'll play whatever role, and he can fit into any role. That's why I like Josh Hart so much as a role player. I've been on record talking about that numerous times. He's a guy that I've taken a serious liking to. But your guy Jabari Walker says that he doesn't think he should have as much fan support as he does, Eric.
That's kind of funny. He's just a humble guy.
I like Jabari, man. Yeah. He's he seems like the easiest guy to be around. Just like it's just like. You know what I mean? Like, all these guys are star basketball players and whatnot, you know? Like, Jabari's, you know, fresh into the league. Just seems like he'd be the type of guy you hang out with him, man. He'll make you feel like you're the NBA player, you know what I mean? Like, he's that, seems like that type of guy, which is why he has that fan support, is because people like that.
Yep, absolutely. And then if you play well on top of that, that always helps.
And you play the right way? I mean, fans here appreciate players that play the right way. So.
Yeah. And obviously he was a standout in Summer League, and he mentioned that will be a huge confident booster to the young guys that they accomplished that Summer League championship. And, man, I kind of feel bad. We'll talk about this, obviously, but him going right after Sharp was kind of jarring how thought out Jabari's answers were compared to what we just heard the interview before that. But you can tell Jabari grew up with a father who played in the NBA. He just knows the game, has a super high IQ, and that's one of the reasons why I was so confident in him becoming a good player, is because not only does he have ability and good traits on the court, but off the court, I don't think it's possible to have a much better mindset than he has going into the season. Just whereas like he's comfortable if he's just a role player, and that you can have a long career if you're a role player, but you could also be better than that. So I really like that. And then just hearing him talk about how he's talked to Greg Brown a lot about what he went through last year, and that Nas has become kind of a mentor to him. That was cool to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Nas being a vet is kind of weird to think about, man.
I know.
Our first live stream was when we drafted him. So, making this channel seem old, man.
Now he's going into his 4th season.
Yeah, which is crazy. Let's talk Shade Sharp, man.
All right.
I could. What's the proper phrasing? I couldn't care less about Sharp's like lack of interview skills or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he seems like when he's around guys, he's just like a normal chill guy, like soft spoken, you know, just I like that better than some guy that comes into the league and acts like Jordan Poole or something. You know what I mean? Like like Jordan Poole has backed it up. He's become very talented, man, but I mean, like, dude, like, as a young guy, and Dame said this is something Dame said, like, at age 18, 19, coming into the league, Dame said, I don't know how I would have acted. So the fact that he's just, like, so chill and just, like, has a good disposition about him, that, like, manifests itself in interviews in a way where people, like, oh, man, he's just not well-spoken, or he doesn't, like, gives the same answers, you know, like, he says compete all the time, even though the questions could be 2 different questions, and he'll answer them, we just gotta go in and compete, and, yeah. And that's how he answers stuff. I don't care, man. Like, I like that he's, you know, that type of disposition. And 4 years from now, I bet you he's giving more, like, candid, elaborate interviews. Like, right now, it's just, the dude is who he is, man. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think that's going to hold him back on the court, so I don't care.
Yeah, could we get him, like, a PR guy to go down to Santa Barbara with him, though, and, like, just help him become a little more comfortable up there? I don't think that would be too bad. But yeah, it's really hard to tell. I, of course, mistook that, or, I mean, I guess it's not determined yet whether I mistook it or not, as maybe, I mean, it's tough because he gets asked a question, and I don't feel like he really heard a lot of the questions too. So, he was really uncomfortable.
Like he's kind of aloof.
Yeah, and he was really uncomfortable and didn't until the end, there was two questions that he specifically answered really well, but he didn't really address any of the questions, and so then you kind of worry, like, does he not understand like the game and what's being asked, or does he just not understand the dialogue, or does he just care so little about answering these questions? It could
Or
be
it's just
a mixture of all of
dude,
them. Like, yeah,
it could be like he's just nervous talking in front of a lot of people. Like there's players that can go out there and play in front of 20,000 and it's fine, you know what I mean? Like whatever, because that's what they do. They play basketball, you know. They just go out there and they compete, right? But Gar, like, he doesn't talk for a living. He plays basketball for a living. So talking in front of a bunch of people might make him nervous, where he just like kind of gets lost in his own head. I'm sure pretty much everybody watching this stream in school, in high school, got nervous about presenting in front of an entire class. And if you're not, you're just built different, I guess. So, like, I mean,
look at some of our early streams. I was like nervous just coming on, you know.
yeah. I mean, so dude, I was nervous. I mean, go back and watch a post-game stream from year one, man. I'll go back and watch that and just be like, dude, I don't even recognize myself. And we're talking about post-game streams from less than like 3 years ago. It's like 2.5 years ago. I don't recognize myself. It's insane to me. Like, it's dude, I feel like my voice is completely different. The way I talk is different. My confidence is different. And I used to be somebody with a ton of social anxiety. That it put me in that situation. I'm probably answering it the same way, because I'm like, I'm dealing with anxiety talking in front of a bunch of people. But I could always go out there and play in front of, like, I've played in front of a couple thousand people before, and I was fine. Like, I'm out there playing basketball, man. I would rather play in front of 2,000 people than talk in front of 20. So, you know what I mean? That's probably what it is. So it can come off as a little bit aloof, and you know, like, you had a comment about him in the past, and you know, took that back and said, like, oh, you just misinterpreted his, you know, and you said you were wrong and misinterpreted his post-game, or not his post-game, you misinterpreted his interview answers as being him being kind of aloof. But I don't blame you for, like, coming across, because it comes across that way if you don't know him better, right?
I mean,
so let me just say, like, people don't come in here and give either of us crap if we say, oh, well, we were wrong and walked it back. All right.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I did apologize for saying that. I was wrong, but
there's specific people that will, like, constantly, like, try and get one over, and they'll come in chat and say, well, you said this and you said that, and it's like constantly like trying to put you down or me down, and it's just like,
I mean, he's played 6 minutes of summer league. We still don't know for sure if it's just him being shy, or if he has possibly not the best basketball IQ. But I mean,
we don't know that with any rookie.
I don't
we haven't seen.
I don't think you can take that from an interview. Was the where I was wrong was saying that I don't like him because of that, and because I didn't think the interview was good. But, like, it could 100% just be he's just really uncomfortable up there and wasn't really understanding the questions, and has a really good. I mean, there's plenty of players who aren't good at interviews that are tremendous players. So I don't think that necessarily precludes him from being a star player or anything like that. So that's where I was wrong, and I made that mistake. And I'm really excited to see him play on the court.
Yeah. It just frustrates me when, like, you'll own up to that and be honest, when most other people just pretend like they never said anything, and then when you own up to it, people will still give you crap for it occasionally. So that stuff annoys me, man. Like, just respect. If either of us are wrong about anything, respect that. If we own up to it, just respect that. Move on, man, and let's talk about him, all right? Don't come in chat saying, well, you said this or you said that. Like, most people in our position don't own up to anything, okay? So respect that we'll own up to it if we say something that later on feels like is wrong or is proven to be wrong.
Yeah, I think, like Chris says in chat, it was just because you saw some interviews, I forget which one stood out, like, in the pre-draft process, but, like, several players were really well spoken, maybe like a Dyson Daniels or whatever, who worked out around the same time, and and then you compare the two, or like Jabari Walker right after him, like I said earlier, and it's just like Jabari he like takes a second to think out his answers, but you can tell he's prepared for this, and he's actually, he was a star at Colorado, so he had time to have post game press conferences as their best player and stuff like that. Whereas Shaedon Sharpe, you have to keep in mind that he doesn't have any of this experience. So, but I just wish someone would help him, because I feel bad. It's like, come on, like we could not like get someone in here to like at least help him work through some of these things in an interview process. There are coaches out there that help you with that kind of stuff. It's not ultimately going to matter in terms of basketball, but I just feel bad for him when he has to do interviews.
Yep, Gray Hughes is in chat saying, like we have a bet, right? That he's betting that the Blazers will reach the second round, right?
Yeah.
And it's a $50 bet. Then I'm betting against that, but I'm not saying they can't reach the second round. I am fully expecting that to be a possibility. Like, I fully know that you could end up being $50 richer. But guess what? You've donated as much as anybody in the past year, man. So it's like, fine. I will, if they reach the second round, I will gladly give you $50. All right? I will gladly give you $50, right? Like, this team could win 40 games, this team could win 55. If this team wins 55, I'm not wrong. Like, I'll predict lower than that, but doesn't mean I'm wrong. Like, multiple things are possible.
Sorry. Yeah.
What?
No, I'm just making funny.
Well, there's a difference between saying, like, two things are possible or multiple things are possible and, like, saying something definitively. I am not definitively saying they can't reach the second round or even the conference finals. I think they have that potential. Mm-hmm. I think they also might be a 7 seed, 8 seed. The West is absolutely loaded. That's not even an insult to the Blazers, man. Like, the West is loaded this year. It's very deep.
Taylor, don't say daddies. It's one person that bet against the Blazers, not me.
Oh, man.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Oh, a couple more things.
Well, actually, here, Eric, I bet you $50 that they reach the finals. You taking the other side of that bet?
My mic's cutting out. Did you say something?
I said I bet you $50 that the Blazers will reach the finals.
So you give me $50 no matter what happens?
No. Like if they don't reach the finals, you get $50. If they reach the finals, I get $50. All right, so that you can bet against them, and I can counter the bet with Gray, so I can be a true fan again.
No, I'm not. I don't gamble, so.
Oh, well, lame. Anyway, what's up? What's next?
I'm just kidding. I do gamble.
Yeah, I know you gamble, man.
Anyways,
I'm not going to call you out on that, though.
Sharpe feels pretty good. He says he's still rehabbing, but is also ready to play. He said that the trip to Santa Barbara would be low-key chill, and he's looking to learn as much as possible from Dame and Ant. He also said Dame is great, a great mentor, and this is the best thing, maybe outside of something else, which I'll say when we talk about it. But maybe the second best thing I heard all day was when Sharpe says that Dame has a way of teaching you while playing the game, and Sharpe said that was a new experience for him, that like while they're actually playing games and doing runs, that Dame is constantly helping him and teaching him. So it's kind of weird that while he's playing, he's doing that. He also said that his goal this year is to be Rookie of the Year. I mean, hey, it's good to have lofty goals. If he's Rookie of the Year, we're going to be really freaking good, probably. And that he wants to play also in the, he said Rookie All-Star game, but the Rising Stars game, which would also be cool to have some representation there. And then he told us why he's number 17, and that's because he was the first-round pick and the 7th pick.
Yeah. Dame even said, like, Sharpe asked good questions. I had some here from Dame about Sharpe that we didn't touch on. that he looks effortless, likes his disposition, says he asks good questions, and Dame says he thinks Sharp can change the team more than anyone else. Is something that Dame said. Yeah. But that's why I love the Sharp pick, man. Like, yeah, you don't get the right role player. Like, sure, you could get a role-playing defensive power forward like Jeremy Sohan or whatever. But, dude, stars win in the league. Top-end talent wins in the league. They drafted the most naturally talented player left on the board with maybe the most upside in the entire draft, and you give him Damian Lillard as a mentor and Chauncey Billups as a mentor, and he has the athletic ability, in my opinion, to be a good defender, and you bring in Gary Payton II to be a defensive mentor. Like, dude, look at what Dame's done with Ant, okay? Sharp, coming into the league, in my opinion, is more physically and naturally talented than even Anthony Simons was. Okay, he was a higher regarded prospect for a reason than Anthony Simons was. Anthony Simons was highly regarded, but Shaedon Sharp has the reputation he does because he's just naturally just insane, athletically insane. Okay, I mean, dude, like, we don't know if we're gonna be able to build a roster to win a chip in the next 3 years, but I mean, 5 years down the line, if Sharp pans out, like, he has superstar potential. When you got Ant and you got Dame, like, Dame his best chance might come at age 36, just like Chris Paul's has. Like, that's why I was all on board with that, you know. So, looking forward to it.
It's also important. This was kind of mentioned that Ant is now starting to become the way Dame was with people. So, like, even after Dame's gone, if we still have Ant around and he's picked up that you don't have to be insecure when a new guy comes in, even if he plays a similar position to you, you can still mentor that guy, and it's best for the team. So having multiple guys that will mentor him, like you said, on both ends of the floor can be nothing but good.
Dude, like, after Dame, I mean, you could have like a 30-year-old Ant and I don't know how old Sharp will be, but that could be your backcourt when Dame retires. I mean, and then you just fill in the pieces around him. Like, dude, that could be two, like, borderline superstars. I mean, that you know, like, that's if everything goes right and that's the most optimistic version, right? But I mean, that's how you try and set up your team, like, with the potential to win now with Dame. Like, I still don't think there was a move out there that made sense that would have increased our chances to win a championship other than using the 7th pick on Shaedon Sharp, because for OG Anunoby it would have required trading more, okay? Like, pieces that you don't want to give up. And as you said earlier, like, Phoenix is a team without much upside because you know what they're going to be. Either they're going to play up to their capabilities or not. But in Portland, you have a bunch of guys that can pop. If they pop, then you have probably a contender. If they don't, then it's a playing team. But it's been a borderline playing team the past couple of years with a roster that doesn't have that higher level of upside. So I will absolutely take the upside.
Yep. All right.
Who you want to talk about next?
Let's move on
through these.
All right, let's go with Jeremy Grant real quick.
Yeah.
He talked about clicking with Dame on Team USA. He said Dame is locked in to win, and Grant is the same way. Doesn't have a lot of outside stuff, just wants to play ball and win. This is the comment that beats what Sharp said earlier, and you mentioned this earlier too. He said there was a lot of young talent and that the league doesn't know how good this young talent is on this roster. It's something that, you know, every time you see those, what's the best futures team in the NBA? And we're always like really low on that list, or like who has the best core under 25. We're always towards the bottom of that. And I don't think it was really cool to hear a vet come in and say, wow, I came here and this team is loaded with young talent, and that was really awesome.
I like hearing that more from Jeremy Grant than I would even like hearing from Dame, because Dame's been here.
Yeah.
For Jeremy Grant to
and we've heard Dame
get traded here,
prop up every player.
Yeah, exactly. So to hear it from Grant is like, it's cool because he literally just got here. He came from a young team, so I believe it, man. I mean, I believe it. Absolutely. He said Nurk likes to pass, I like to cut.
Yep. I like that line as well.
I would love some short roll lobs from Nurkic to Jeremy Grant when teams trap Dame on the pick and rolls. And Grant said that he doesn't think Nurkic has played with an athlete quite like him. Like at his position, I think he meant, and in prior years you had Aminu, Carmelo, like, I mean, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, and just, I mean, hearing him say those kind of things, like, I mean,
Are you playing with a pen right now?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Derek Jones loved to cut too and dunk the ball, but like he didn't always do that. He would just stay spotted up in the corner. So,
Which is fine if you can shoot threes like Jeremy Grant can. So I'm cool with whatever Grant does. But the problem is Jones, he should have always been cutting. Derek Jones should have.
But because he can shoot threes, it's going to open up those cuts even more. And if he's already thinking about how he's going to have this great connection with Nurk, I really like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they've definitely played together in the practice facility because, I mean, the whole team's been there for the most of September, so it's like there's probably already some connection there, hopefully.
And then he said he grew a lot as a player and a leader in Detroit, and that he's expecting to play a bunch of different positions. They mentioned with several people if Grant would be kind of a small ball five at times, which they said they're probably going to do. I don't know how effective that'll be, but we'll see. But I don't know if you picked up on this one, Tori, but he was asked how long he's been, or he was asked, Portland's been a team that's been pursuing you for a long time. How long have you thought about playing here? And he kind of answered with, it kind of matches everything that we know happened. And that's, he said, well, I really was just thinking about my time. I was happy where I was at and up until that point. So I think without saying it, he pretty much said that like he wasn't considering it in the past, but things changed.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna need you to throw that pen across the room.
I'm not even hitting it on anything. I'm just waving it. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I hear it. It sounds like clicking, man. But no, go
on. So yeah, it's I got the sense that even though he said, "Oh, it's full circle to play where his dad did," and he was born here technically, even though he probably doesn't remember any of that because he was one when his dad was traded. But yeah, so it was. I definitely got the feeling like he was happy in Detroit until recently. I'm not sure what changed last year, but something definitely changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Who have we not talked about?
Nasir Little.
And Nas. And then who else? I think that's it.
Eubanks and Watford and Winslow.
Oh. we got hurt. Yeah, we're almost 2.5 hours in.
All right. Nas is super hungry, rejuvenated. Don't want to have the same season as last year over again, team-wise. Yeah. He said Dame has come in super focused and that they spent pretty much the whole summer together as they rehab from the same surgery. And he also said he is eating better and more locked in the weight room, which was obvious, as you mentioned earlier. He said he was 100% and feeling healthy, and that he had good things to say about Jabari Walker, and that also Sharp is crazy athletic and just a natural talent and is, quote, gonna be a problem.
Yep. Yes, sir.
So good things from Nas. I think they're, obviously really high on him, and I still think he's going to be the starter eventually at small forward.
Yep. Yusuf Nurkic talked about how he liked Chauncey Billups' honesty, which was interesting. And Nurkic just takes like subtle shots at Stotts all the time, and I love it. I'm here for it, man.
When he says stuff, he's not capping.
Yeah, he said that. It's like unironically. Yeah, that was funny. His English has gotten a lot better, though. It's a lot easier to understand him than it was when he got traded here, so that's cool.
And then he also said that Chauncey doesn't say stuff he doesn't mean. And it's the most exciting part about Chauncey is his honesty. Yeah.
It's no secret that Nurkic didn't really like Stotts in the past. And a lot of people seem to dislike him because he didn't like Stotts, man. But yeah, Chauncey will tell it like it is, and players respect that. I think the right players respect that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's an important distinction after last year.
Yeah.
And then what else did Nurkic say that you liked?
He said Dame's the happiest he's been with his health. I don't know. That was kind of a weird way to describe it, but he basically was saying Dame was healthy. He said it was special to play for his country. He said the team will be different because of the way they compete. And in this summer, he witnessed the importance of chemistry for a team. And he said a couple of things at the end that I think really hit home. One was that he was really happy to stick in one place here in Portland, and that he specifically mentioned the Blazers are more to him than just a team, and that the city of Portland has become somewhere he could see himself staying long after his playing career is over.
Yep, so stop hating on the guy.
Yeah. So just really good to hear him say that kind of stuff. People have questioned his motivations in the past. But then he went on a bit of a tangent. He said he went to, I forgot where it was, but somewhere in Africa over the summer, and really talked about how troubling that was to him. I think he mentioned Elon Musk specifically being rich enough to help some of the problems and not doing anything about it. It's...
I didn't have the time to listen to that, so I skipped over that answer, not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's Nurkic spits the truth, man. That's all I know.
But yeah, just really good interview with Nurkic, and I'm happy he's back, and I'm excited to see what he does this year.
Yep. All right, so you lead the rest, because the rest I didn't have time.
Justice Winslow was also asked if he's gonna start. Or if he wants to start. He said, of course, he wants to start, but the bigger picture is just to be whatever's best for the team. So once again, good. He talked about the team having versatility on defense, especially if he's in the second unit, but that they're going to have to play better offensively if they have, all these defensive pieces off the bench. He said if he plays with the first unit, he sees himself more as a small forward, but with the bench, he's more of a 4. And he also said that Chauncey likes him because he would fit in on the bad boy Pistons team. I don't know if I agree with that completely, but yeah, he said it.
I mean, he plays the right way, so I see it, but I mean, dude, everything with Winslow just comes down to I just wish he could shoot the 3 ball consistently, because then, I mean, everything else is perfect. It's just, I mean, for a role player, I think shooting and defense are the most important traits. That's why 3-and-D players can do nothing else and still be very valuable. But it's like, in the playoffs, one player can break an offense, whereas, like, one player can't make a defense. You know what I mean? But, like, if you can play off, like Tony Allen, teams had some success playing off him a lot of times, and that was back when the NBA had less shooting and less spacing. Nowadays, it's like you need that spacing. So if you have 4 shooters around him, then it's fine. But that's just what it comes down to for Winslow. So
yeah, absolutely. And then we don't need to spend a lot of time on Drew Eubanks, but one thing he said that I want to talk about was he mentioned that he hadn't played until his minutes with Ant last year with a guy who gets attention in the pick and roll the way that Dame does normally. And he didn't get to play with Dame, but he's foreshadowing that in the future. And then also the way Ant can. And then he mentioned several other guys draw that attention as well. So he was really excited to have a role where he has to do things a little differently because he's going to be asked when he plays to to catch the ball and make stuff happen out of that short roll. And but he said he doesn't have a lot of experience with that, so that's going to be a new thing for him.
Yeah.
And they said that the team has a lot of team first guys, and he believes they can make a deep playoff run. And then the last interview of the day, because they didn't do Greg Brown for some reason, he was the only main roster guy that didn't.
We haven't talked about Keon and Trendon, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, Keon. Oh, I have Keon. Yeah, let me do Keon before Trendon then.
Yeah.
Keon said his approach to the game and his getting his body right and becoming a better professional has improved over the last year. And then he talked about he's got to be ready, stay ready, and that when the opportunity comes, you got to seize that moment. Typical stuff, but it's always good to hear young players say that. And then he also said that just becoming a defensive presence will get him on the court. It's the same thing that Gary Trent said for a couple years before he started playing. But one thing he did say was that to get in better shape and to be a little different or to stand out on defense, he's worked on defending full court 94 feet. And he wants to come in, if he gets an opportunity to play, and just harass players for the full length of the court, which I think is cool.
I mean, dude, it's definitely a good thing to have a guy that's willing and capable to do that. I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, shoot, you need to change it up defensively. Struggling needs some energy, especially against a bench unit that maybe doesn't have, like, a really good ball handling guard. I mean, I think the bench unit's going to try and force turnovers and play fast. Throwing Keon Johnson in with that, if he's able to do that, especially if you also have Gary Payton II on the court as well. I mean, that's good. That'd be fun, man. That'd be fun.
Get some 8-second violations in the backcourt. That'd be crazy. Like we have the personnel to maybe do that a little bit.
I mean, it's really hard to do that against NBA guards, so we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, the fact that he wants to be that type of guy. I mean, we've seen the Pelicans. The Pelicans had success with Jose Alvarado being that type of guy.
Yeah.
And I think Keon can be Keon's, I think, is a better athlete than Jose Alvarado is. It just comes down to, effort and being willing to do it and being in the right kind of shape and having the motor to do it. Which I think Keon Johnson might have.
What if Keon does that thing where he hides out of bounds and then runs and steals the ball?
I mean, that's more gimmicky to me, man. I think, that's the thing is teams started figuring out that Alvarado was doing it and it wasn't working anymore, man. Like, it's just annoying. Like, smart teams just dribble, keep them on their back, and then play 5-on-4. Like, I don't know. So he doesn't have to do all that. Just make the opposing ball handler expend energy bringing the ball up the court, especially if it's a key player. And maybe you force a turnover, but even if you don't, if you make them expend energy, especially if you're like the 12th man on the team, like that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So
and then the last player, I'll just say what Aeromancer said in chat before we get to this. Greg Brown did his interview by having a "Let's Ride" video a la Russell Wilson.
I love it.
Okay, so Jabari Walker aside, we know, or I already knew that Jabari Walker was, well spoken and things like that. But outside of that, Trendon Watford, this guy really, like, I don't know what the right word is, moved me today. It
moved you.
It was really, really crazy how much of a vet he sounded like, and how just like good person too, and how much he cares about being a leader, how his leadership skills just shone throughout the interview. It was really impressive from Trendon. And he said he likes being a vocal leader, and it's rare for a young guy, an undrafted rookie in his second year, to come in and be that kind of guy who rallies the troops and can be a vocal leader. But he also said that it's his goal to be the light in a dark room and also to be the spark on the court. And that he doesn't have too much expectations in terms of what's going to happen for him this season, but he just wants to be able to help the team, and that he's going to keep working to get what he deserves. And he was just really, really solid with how much of a, I mean, it was almost like he was a coach, not a player. I was blown away by his interview today.
Yeah.
If you didn't see it, you got to watch it, man.
Yeah, I still gotta watch his. I'm looking forward to watching it after this. So I don't really have anything to say, man. I definitely need to watch it if you're saying it moved you.
And this is why. I mean, certain guys like I'm guessing Lou Dort would be similar in this regard, but like part of the reason why players who are undrafted and then find some success do that is because of the head on their shoulders and their work ethic and that kind of stuff. And so I just think this guy believes in himself, and I think he's going to do whatever it takes to get to what level he's going to get to. And man, to have a guy on your into the bench that even if he's not playing, as a leader and kind of rallies all the young guys too. And I was blown away by him today.
Yep. So that's Media Day reaction, 2.5 hours of it. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. If you've watched us the whole stream, shout out to you. The longest stream we've done since probably the Gary Payton II signing stream. Or Summer League. Probably Summer League. First Summer League game or something like that. But yeah, we have to figure out our schedule. So we're doing post-game streams after preseason games starting next Monday. Okay, right here on Blazers Uprise Live. The post-game shows for the preseason will be on here on the second channel. And we're doing that in substitution of Blazers Uprise Live. Next Thursday, do you think that's when we should do the prediction stream for like our standings predictions and that sort of thing?
Sure, there's not a game, is there?
No, I don't know when we did it last year. Let me find out when we did it last year. Because I think we had less preseason games last year and we just did it in between a couple of them, but like this year we have 5. I just don't know when we'll have time to do it if everything else is a post-game show starting next Monday. So let me just go back and look real quick. Yeah, we did standings predictions.
While you're doing that, Tyler asked thoughts on Phoenix's Media Day. Man, speaking of opposite vibes of the Blazers, that was man. I'm a bit worried for Phoenix if I'm a Suns fan right now. That was hard to watch. Yeah, they're just. I mean, they're in a funk. I mean, it's possible they're talented enough to get out of it. And once the game started, it could be just nothing. But man, that like every one of them was down. Yeah, Boston too. Obviously for different reasons. But yeah, both of those teams did not get a good sense like I did with the Blazers today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we could do it either next Thursday. We could do it just an extra stream in the middle of the preseason, or we could do it after the preseason is over. Do you have a preference, Eric? Chat, also let me know if you guys have
how much time do we have between the end of the preseason and the first game?
The preseason ends on the 11th or the 13th. I think it ends on the 11th or the 12th, something like that. So like we'd have a stream on the 13th. That would be a normal Blazers Uprise Live, and then we'd have a stream on Monday.
Yeah, let's do it
to
then.
Preview the season. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that Thursday, because we'll like recap everything with the preseason, the last preseason post game show, and I'll have a video talking about what we learned from preseason. Like we'll have enough coverage for preseason games for sure, and we can even touch upon it a little bit in that stream. But yeah, let's do we'll do standings and awards predictions in one stream, and we'll do that with our mods, okay, which we normally do. So just we involve them in like that and picks against the spread, just make it worthwhile for them to police all the bots that end up in chat. So that'll be, Thursday on October 13th. But yeah, so next Thursday we can talk about whatever. We'll figure something out. It'll be our last stream before we start doing post-game shows again. So, And then once the season starts, these episodes will be 3:30 p.m. Pacific time instead of 9:30.
Yep.
Because we'll have picks against the
Can't
spread.
wait.
And we need to figure out the tiebreaker, and we need to actually figure out a bet this year, Eric. Somebody, who was it? I forget. Am I Brady that recommended this? I think it was Brady. Have you seen those, like, it's Mountain Dew plus Flaming Hot Cheetos flavor?
Yeah.
I don't know if they sell them anymore, but we need to do a bet, maybe first day of picks against the spread, that you have to chug one of those on stream for whoever does worse between me and you. It's Flaming Hot Mountain Dew.
That sounds disgusting.
I know, that's why we should do it.
All right.
Chat, do you think? Do you agree? I mean, I did the Flaming Hot buffalo wings, so
Yeah.
just keeping with the theme of Flaming Hot. I don't know if they still sell them anymore, so you might be in luck, Eric.
I don't know.
But
I'm gonna win, so you might be in luck.
yeah, I don't know why you're groaning at it then if you're gonna win. I don't know if you actually believe that. Anyway, yeah, just follow us on Twitter at ToryJonesYT for me, at WhoShock for Eric. I'll put our Twitter handles up on the screen. If you don't follow us, you should definitely follow us. Where are our name tags? I have too many things here. All right, those are our Twitter handles. All right, the channel is at Blazers Uprise YT. There's a YT on the end, and you can figure out when we tweet anything out. Also, join the Discord. There's a link in the description. Hopefully, it's not broken, because links break all the time. So click that if you want to join our Discord, and then you'll get notified when videos drop. Somebody, if it's broken, let me know in chat, and I can post a new one. We'll have NBA Uprise content starting in a week. Eric's doing a top 5 series, so that'll be fun. Subscribe to NBA Uprise. I'll post a link in chat for that. And then what else do we have to plug, Eric, other than the player previews that I'm doing between now and the end of the month? I feel like there's something I'm missing.
Blazers Uprise on Thursday.
Blazers Uprise on Thursday. Anything else?
First game Monday.
Yeah, first game Monday.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's everything. Hopefully that's everything. We got a lot going on. We're trying to do more. I'm learning how to animate more stuff, so looking to just improve as always and bring you guys more content and keep you guys entertained and keep this community thriving. So with that, this has been such a long stream, man. Anything else you got to say before I sign off?
No, thank you to everyone who watched us tonight. Hope everyone has a good day, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Yep, have a good rest of your night or morning for us. Videos between now and Thursday, and then live stream on Thursday, and then we kick things off. Couldn't be more excited. I know you guys are as well. So until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.